Chapter 48,000-Year-Old Secret Edict. Chapter 48,000-Year-Old Secret Edict. In a peaceful location within the forest, a kilometer from Windgaze City, stood a remote courtyard. The 4 guards posted at the door were bone-tempering experts. Zhuo Fan and Luo Yunchang came along with Luo Yunhai and Captain Peng with the envoy as their guide. Steward Zhuo, young Miss Luo, please enter. The man was very polite. He opened the door, stood to the side and bowed for them to pass. The other guards frowned with doubt and a flicker of scorn in their eyes. They were imperial family's guards, always welcomed with bows and courtesy everywhere. But this guy went to invite some no-name clan heads and even bowed down before them. He was seen as a disgrace by his fellow guards. The man picked up on scorn, but he just smirked. How can idiots know the importance these people hold? Steward Zhuo is master's friend, who even Senior Fang Qiubai has his eyes on. He needs to say just one word and he'd be Fang Qiubai's disciple. Even the emperor will have to show respect then. As for the other 3, they're Steward Zhuo's friends. We can't show any disrespect even to them. Secretly snorting, the envoy still showed a flattering smile as he guided them inside. They soon arrived at a garden. A single pavilion laid in the middle with a stone table inside. Fatty sat in the seat of honor and behind him stood Jade Flute Divine Sword, Fang Qiubai. On one side of the Fatty was Lei Yuntian, with Lei Yuding and Xiao Chui behind him. On the other it was Kai Rong and his son Kai Shouting. There were 2 additional empty stools around the table, for Zhuo Fan and Luo Yunchang. This must be a meeting of the 3 clan heads. Zhuo Fan rubbed his nose and took a step back, letting Luo Yunhai take the lead. Bro Zhuo. Luo Yunhai didn't understand while Zhuo Fan smiled. Show them the dignity of a clan head, and don't let them look down on you. Luo Yunhai understood as Luo Yunchang showed a grateful look. It was clear this meeting was between the 3 clan heads and the imperial family. But after the events over the past few months, all of Windgaze City knew that Luo clan's true clan head was Zhuo Fan. Even the imperial family might be considering Zhuo Fan as the master of the Luo clan. Zhuo Fan did this now so that he did not exceed his authority, and was letting Luo clan come into the light. He wanted to state the fact Luo clan's clan head was still named Luo. Please come in. The envoy saw the 3rd prince and bowed 90 degrees towards Zhuo Fan in a show of respect he had for his master's friend. But this had a different effect on everyone. The Fatty was stunned. Since when were the imperial family's guards so humble? Kai clan and Lei clan were of the same opinion. When this guard came to invite them, he was brazen, cocky and flaunting, not caring in the least who he was talking to. But towards the Luo clan, he treated them like guests. The 2 clans felt apprehensive in their hearts. They were even more envious. They were all clans of Windgaze City, yet the treatment was worlds apart. Only Fang Qiubai smiled, guessing Zhuo Fan might have twisted facts to scare the envoy. But this only worked to admire him more. Under the envoy's polite call, the Luo clan stepped into the pavilion. Luo Yunchang greeted the Fatty. I am Luo Yunchang, greetings, Your Highness. On the way here, the envoy told them of his master. The others followed Luo Yunchang in showing respect. But Zhuo Fan just shrugged. The Fatty only waved, not taking Zhuo Fan's disrespect seriously. Please sit. Luo Yunchang and her brother took a seat, while Zhuo Fan and Captain Peng stood behind them. Fatty threw a long look towards Zhuo Fan, secretly nodding. Great authority but without any arrogance. He is a loyal subject. Fang Qiubai smiled with praise in his eyes. Zhuo Fan's conduct was etched in the 2's hearts. Wielding his martial prowess to protect his master, and courteous enough to defend his master's honor. In the eyes of the imperial family, he was a rare and valuable official. The Fatty began. I have invited the 3 clan heads today per the imperial edict to reveal to you the 1,000-years-old relationship between the 3 clans. Everyone was focused on Fatty's next words. The 3 clan heads must have each received an instruction from the previous clan head to not make an enemy out of each other, and perhaps even mentioned about helping one another. Fatty stood up. Moreover, the 3 clans' power must never leave Windgaze City until the pearls shine. Kai Rong and Lei Yuntian watched the Fatty in puzzlement. Luo Yunchang got a nod from her brother and also looked puzzled. Ha ha ha, in fact, this is an agreement between the founding imperial family 1,000 years ago and the 3 clan heads of that time, known as Secret Pearl Order. Fatty smiled and his eyes flashed. Kai clan, Luo clan, Lei clan and the 7 noble houses are the same. They are all loyal officials, founders of the empire. What? Like a bomb was thrown on them. The 3 clans' representatives were shell-shocked. They never thought that their origins were the same as the 7 houses. But why had they fallen so low that they could only stay in Windgaze City as mortal clans? The fatty turned a bit bashful. Guessing their thoughts, sorry. This is what our human clan owes you. Sighing, Fatty continued, at that time, Tianyu Empire was just established and was shaky, with unrest among its people. The great ancestor and founder sent his 7 ministers across the kingdom to employ autonomous administration and settle the land. This gave them enough power to make them equal to the imperial family. They later became the 7 noble houses. In just 20 years, the 7 houses grew exponentially, and their greed ignited a war among them. The imperial family could no longer keep them in check, and had to employ schemes in weakening them. The 7 houses were ultimately aware that there will be no winners in their war and ceased fire. But the aftermath was cruel. The people were suffering, the empire was mourning, and it was just one step away from collapsing. But how is this connected to us? Zhuo Fan frowned. Taking a deep breath, Fatty straightened his back. Everyone, to be honest, your clans are founders of our empire. If your elders were still sitting in the imperial court, they would be no less famous than the 4 pillars. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. 4 pillars were the support of the Tianyu Empire, leading the military, economy, politics, external affairs. They were the only ones capable of resisting the 7 houses. There was a rumor. The 4 pillars' power was so strong it struck fear in the imperial family. Imperial family, 4 pillars and the 7 noble houses represented the empire's highest power, but also restricting each other in a delicate balance. If one side tips, the balance would crumble and the empire would fall. No one could believe that their ancestors were so amazing and capable of becoming the empire's 4 pillars of today. The fatty lost his smile at this point. The great ancestor at the time set up the Secret Pearl Order with your ancestors to prevent another war from breaking out among the 7 houses. The emperor used all kinds of excuses to demote your ancestors to Windgaze City and become common clans. But the imperial family could, at any time, combine the 3 clans into a great clan equal to the rank of the 7 houses. This would occur only when war broke out again between the 7 houses. Then this new clan would add balance to the equation, to save as many lives as possible. But even if an 8th house were to appear, it cannot stop the 7 houses. Luo Yunchang voiced her doubts. Zhuo Fan cut Fatty off with a smile before he could speak. Young miss, the 8th house's purpose isn't to stop them but to add balance. A war breaks out only when one side has absolute confidence in winning it. But a war in which winning was possible at a heavy cost won't happen unless the 2 sides hated each other to the bone. Sometimes when 2 power starts a conflict, it is very easily solved, since no one wants to suffer irreparable damages. Luo Yunchang nodded and the fatty praised Zhuo Fan. Steward Zhuo is amazing. Luo clan will rise for sure in your capable hands. Kai Rong's lips twitched from the regret he felt. If he hadn't offended Zhuo Fan, he might have been able to rope him. This kid was a genius seen once in 1,000 years. Third Prince, we know of the relationship between the 3 clans. What I want to know is, how are you going to secure our rise to the 8th seat? Zhuo Fan stared at the fatty. Raising his brow, the fatty nodded in admiration. That's Steward Zhuo for you, hitting the nail on the head. Of course, the imperial family's power is enough to make a clan rise in a short time. The hard part though is how to keep it hidden. Zhuo Fan smiled. You think the 7 houses would just watch us rise up to their level? Kai Rong and Lei Yuntian's backs went cold with sweat. They were elated that their ancestors had been imperial court officials. They were thinking, my clan will receive the imperial family's support to rise above a common clan. But Zhuo Fan brought them down to earth. Not to mention growing stronger, the 7 houses wouldn't even let the new clan grow to their level. They would be destroyed while they were at their weakest. Kai Rong and Lei Yuntian were grateful for Zhuo Fan's reminder. The imperial family wanted the 7 houses' power in balance, but the 3 of them wanted to survive. Kai Rong had to admire Zhuofan's prudent mind. Chapter 49 3 Clans as One. Chapter 49 3 Clans as One. After muttering under his breath for a while, the fatty spoke. This was settled at the moment the secret order was given. What is a clan's foundation? Spirit stones, pills? No, these are support items. Strength is the best guarantee of a powerful clan. Veiled Dragon Pavilion has its 9 outstanding elders. Hell Valley has its 12 elders as overseers. Each of the 7 houses has its own strength. Also, every one of them has invited a venerable, along with other secret weapons they're holding. Even we, the imperial family, don't dare stir them. Fatty's eyes then shined like a radiant sun. At the time, in order to paralyze the 7 houses, Great Ancestor confiscated the wealth of your clans. This is why none of you has any decent cultivation method and martial arts. It was also because of this reason the 7 houses withdrew their surveillance on you 500 years ago. Yet none of them would have thought that you all are still holding a low profound ranked martial art. Fatty showed a sneaky smile. With this martial art all of you can become strong. Even the 7 houses only have 1 or 2 profound ranked martial arts. The 3 clans were amazed. When did they have such a martial art? If they had it, they'd have used it to grow strong by now. Only Zhuofan's eyes rolled about, recalling something. With a vague smile, Fatty's hand flashed and revealed a green jade slip. This is a low mortal ranked martial art, combining art. By itself, it holds no value, but if you use it along with your clan's spirit ranked martial arts you inherited, you can combine them into a single martial art of the profound rank. In other words, Luo clan's returning dragon palm, Kai clan's wind kick, and Lei clan's lightning finger were originally one single martial art that the imperial family split among the 3 clans. And only the imperial family knew the way to restore it. Zhuofan squinted. Fatty was shocked but then nodded. Steward Zhuo is wise. There aren't many martial arts which are capable of splitting other martial arts. And the number of martial arts that can restore them are even lesser. I didn't think Steward Zhuo would know of this. If Imperial Father hadn't mentioned it, I would have never found out. Zhuofan just smiled. Perhaps because the splitting martial arts were uncommon even at the mortal rank, each sect in the sacred domain seized them. They split their core martial arts to prevent degenerate disciples from spreading it. Only the sect leader's disciple had the right to learn the entire set of martial arts. Zhuofan turned to look at Kai clan and Lei clan. They were startled, but their eyes showed deep regret. Perhaps because they were negligent in safeguarding their inherited martial arts, and let the Hell Valley steal them. Especially with regards to Kai clan who were quick to give it away. It must be really eating Kai Rong inside right now. Clan heads, please take out your inherited martial arts. Fatty placed the jade slip on the table with a smile. But only Luo Yunchang took out her clan's martial art. After Lei Yuding got to know of Yang Ming's treachery, she gave back the returning dragon palm to Luo Yunchang. But the other clan heads looked at each other in shame. Fatty frowned as he stared at them. Sighing, Lei Yuntian cupped his hands. Your Highness, I was unable to protect my ancestors' martial art from Hell Valley's thieving hands. I accept your Highness' punishment. What? Fatty slapped the table. Kai Rong also cupped his hands. Your Highness, I am the same. Fatty's body shivered in rage. Why, just how are you both clan heads? Have you forgotten your ancestors' instructions? You should have defended it with your lives. The 2 kneeled. Please forgive us, Your Highness. Fatty sighed as he scratched his head. Kai Rong peeked at him. Your Highness, can't the imperial family bestow us another profound ranked martial art? Bestow your mom. Fatty couldn't hold it in and began raining curses and spitting all over Kai Rong's kneeling figure. What do you take profound ranked martial arts for, cabbage? Even the imperial family has only 4 of them. And they're each registered. If I take one out, everyone will know. How are your clans gonna rise then? You dumb pig, are you tired of living? Fatty gave Kai Rong a round of slapping then stomped his feet. Kai Rong curled up and shivered on the ground. What now, what now? The secret pearl order is ruined. Fatty paced around. Zhuofan smirked and 2 jade slips appeared with a flash in his hand. Third prince, there's no need to worry. I have their clan's martial arts. What? The two clan heads shouted in unison, staring dumbfounded in Zhuo Fan's direction. Kai Rong in particular, having not witnessed Zhuo Fan's prowess, was incredulous at what was happening. Lei Yuntian gave Zhuo Fan a thankful nod. If not for him, not only Lei clan wouldn't recover, they'd even be executed in a fit of anger by third prince. Ha ha ha, Steward Zhuo. You truly are amazing. I see why Elder Zhou of Veiled Dragon Pavilion speaks so highly of you. Fatty was overjoyed and ran into Zhuo Fan for a bear hug. If not for you, I would have failed Imperial Father's task. I owe you one. Smiling, Zhuo Fan shook his head. This is all for the Luo clan. Yes, right, for the Luo clan and for me, ha ha ha. Fatty slapped Zhuo Fan's shoulder, then gathered the 4 jade slips. Now that we have the martial arts, next is the merger of the 3 clans. According to the Great Ancestor's secret pearl order, 2 clans are to merge with the strongest, and the profound ranked martial art will be in the clan head's care. As such, Your Highness, Kai Rong seemed hyped as he jumped to his feet. Luo clan has little strength and only 4 members, and Lei clan is on the verge of collapse. Only my Kai clan is flourishing. As such, I will begrudgingly accept this responsibility and support them under my clan's wing. As of now, I will take Lei and Luo clan as Kai clan's disciples and assist the imperial family in fulfilling the secret edict. As he finished speaking, Kai Rong reached for the jade slips, but a rough hand stopped him. Lei Yuntian glared at him as he asked, Kai Rong, how can a bone-tempering cultivator be enough to act as clan head? Humph, so what? Based on strength, my clan is the best. Kai Rong raised his brows. Don't be so sure. Lei Yuntian sneered at Kai Rong and looked at Lei Yunting. She showed a proud smile and stepped forward. Clan head Kai, in this last month, I gathered all the scattered Black Wind Mountains men. We have 600 men, half of them are in chi condensation. Based on strength alone, the Kai clan is weaker. Ha ha ha, so what if you're strong? You're just bandits. Kai Shouting laughed at her. Lei clan is but a rabble of thugs. If you take the role of clan head, we'll only be the 7 houses' laughingstock. Never will we be able to reach their level. Who are you calling a thug? You want a piece of me? You say you're not, thug granny. In an instant, the Lei and Kai clans started fighting for the leader's position. Zhuo Fan was secretly sneering at the side. This new clan is just being established, and it was still a question if it could survive. Yet these bunch of idiots are plagued with delusions of grandeur that they could hold their own against the 7 houses. Fatty and Feng Choubai mocked the quarreling clans with their eyes. Luo Yunchang's face burned in anger. They were fighting against each other while ignoring the Luo clan. It clearly showed that they thought little of her clan. Although they were but 4 members, they were still one of the 3 clans in the edict. But these clans didn't even ask for their opinion. Bam! With that loud slap, the 2 clans stopped and turned to see the brat Luo Yunhai hitting the table. His face was stern and his eyes were steadfast, unlike his usual childish self. Even Zhuo Fan quirked an eyebrow. Why all this fuss? Luo Yunhai swept the people with his eyes and spoke with resolve. In this merger of clans, the only one worthy of the leader position is none other than my Luo clan. Luo Yunhai's declaration shocked them silly. Kai Shouting mocked, what does a brat know? You're the weakest of us, nothing of worth at all. What gives you the right to lead us? Sneering, Luo Yunhai grinned. Everyone there recognized his look, the spitting image of someone they all knew very well. This made them turn their eyes to Zhuo Fan. Hell, Zhuo Fan ruined him. Zhuo Fan was quite piqued by this brat. Luo clan has no men, money or pills. It only has us 4, masters and servants. Luo Yunhai looked at them with sparkling eyes. But our clan is the strongest because we have Steward Zhuo. Luo Yunhai turned to Zhuo Fan with worship in his gaze. If Luo clan was to have any right to become the head, it would all be thanks to Zhuo Fan. His skills were obvious to anyone there. Even Veiled Dragon Pavilion was certain that if Zhuo Fan stayed with Luo clan, its rise was but a matter of time. Under the hopeful and worried gazes, especially Luo Yunhai's expectant look, Zhuo Fan shook his head. This kid hardly ever shows such great expectations from me. I can't disappoint him now, can I? Humph, Zhuo Fan is a mere steward. How can a person of low status like him be worthy to hold on to all our Kai clan's guards and wealth? Punk, our clan shall be the head, don't. Kai shouting mocked but didn't finish as Zhuo Fan slapped the table, revealing the alliance agreement. Under the puzzlement of others, Zhuo Fan sneered. This is Luo Clan and Veiled Dragon Pavilion's alliance contract. What? The fatty was so shocked his whole body trembled and was close to falling off his chair. Even the relaxed and uncaring Feng Qiubai behind him narrowed his eyes as he scanned the sheepskin with shock. Veiled Dragon Pavilion was one of the 7 noble houses. The only ones worthy of signing an alliance agreement with them were others from the 7 houses, while the rest only had the right to sign a subsidiary agreement. But now, with a deep look, Feng Qiubai sighed as he asked Zhuo Fan, "Kid, how did you do it?" Recognized and valued as a hero. He nodded towards Feng Qiubai, then turned to the 2 clans and spoke in a cold tone. Let me tell you, even if this crappy secret pearl order never existed, as long as I'm here, Luo Clan will ultimately rise to the ranks of the 7 houses. You're of no help to us. On the contrary, you are a burden. Zhuo Fan sneered. The 2 other clans lost their voices in shock. With rosy cheeks, Luo Yunchang raised her chin proudly. Luo Yunhai was grinning from excitement, watching Zhuo Fan with veneration. Chapter 50 Merger. Chapter 50 Merger. Mulling over, the fatty traced his hand on the alliance agreement. He found Zhuo Fan's strength exceeding his expectations, as it was not a simple matter to gain such an alliance agreement. Even if Long Jiu was in favor of him, an elder didn't hold much sway in the Veiled Dragon Pavilion. Fatty sighed. Steward Zhuo, I am saddened by seeing you live in such a poor clan. Why don't you come help me? Just think about it. To the shock of everyone present, the 3rd prince expressed his intention in recruiting Zhuo Fan. It amazed them that Zhuo Fan was so highly sought after that even the imperial family was willing to have him. Luo Yunchang stood up nervously, thinking Zhuo Fan would be snatched away. Zhuo Fan smiled and shook his head. 3rd prince, you're overestimating me. Even in the Luo clan, am I not doing my best for the imperial family? Fatty quirked an eyebrow and smiled. All right, I'll leave it at that. He then turned to the rest. It's decided. The Luo clan will be the leader of the 3 clans merger. Kai and Lei clans are to assist the Luo clan in fulfilling the secret pearl order. Your Highness. Kai shouting was disgruntled and wanted to voice his objection, but Kai Rong gripped his arm. He didn't understand the reason, but Fatty's pin-sized eyes left him shivering from the killing intent. Secret Pearl Order was a millennium-old secret plan, and it held great importance to the imperial family. It was understandable that they would only choose the best clan for the position of leader. If the 3 clans were equal, the imperial family would have taken his objection into consideration. But Zhuo Fan took out the alliance agreement, making all dissent moot. It turned the Luo clan into the best choice in implementing the secret edict for the imperial family. If even with this, the other clans voiced their discontent, the imperial family would deal them with a heavy hand. Just as Zhuo Fan said, the Luo clan had all the power it needed to bring the secret edict to fruition. This, in turn, made the other 2 clans their vassals. If they felt that being a vassal was unpleasant, the imperial family would finish them off with a mere swipe. Kai shouting let the matter drop, yet the discontent never left his face. He could only follow Kai Rong's actions in submitting. Fatty nodded, then turned to Lei Yuntian to see if he had objections. The old man said, Your Highness, be at ease. I will give my all in assisting Yunhai and Yunchang. As Cloud Manor fell because of me, I will become a servant to atone for my crimes. Fatty nodded at his sincerity. Good, since there are no objections, the 3 clans shall unite. Understood. Everyone bowed. We shall now withdraw. Steward will stay for a while. Zhuo Fan was unclear as to the reason why, but remained nonetheless under the departing and curious gazes of the rest. The fatty let out a breath, then rushed to Zhuo Fan and dragged him to an empty place in the garden. 3rd Prince, Zhuo Fan frowned. Fatty waved, just follow my lead. Fatty then pointed 2 fingers at the sky as he shouted, I, Tianyu Empire's 3rd Prince, Yuan Song, vow to heaven to become sworn brother with Luo Clan Steward Zhuo Fan, to share life and death together and never betray him. Your turn. Fatty watched Zhuo Fan impatiently. Fan was confused, but becoming sworn brothers with third prince had to be a good thing, so he went along. I, Luo clan steward Fan, vow to heaven to become sworn brother with Tianyu Empire's third prince Yuan Kong. If he doesn't betray me, I won't either. Fatty muttered when he heard the last part. Brother, you sure are meticulous. Fatty, it's not that I don't trust you, but the pugilistic world is too vicious. Fan shrugged, not having any restraint in calling him Fatty. Since no one was here, the Fatty himself wouldn't blow a gasket over this. Plus, this kid needs me to complete the secret edict. Fan was perfectly clear when to be fierce and when to be scared. Just as he foresaw, the Fatty nodded instead of getting angry. Call me how you like it. I feel much better since we are sworn brothers now. Fan looked at him in puzzlement. Fatty sighed. Do you remember our bet from yesterday? The winner gets to have Sister Kuei. I lost the bet, but I still can't let it go. So I decided to become sworn brothers with you. This way I won't go after my brother's wife, and it would help me forget about Sister Kuei too. Fan rose an eyebrow, incredulous that the Fatty wanted to become sworn brothers over this. Fatty, there's nothing between me and that girl. She was just making excuses. What, is that true? Fatty even jumped 10 meters in joy. Then can I still chase her? Nodding, Fan showed a vague smile. Go, annoy the little lass to death. Awesome, brother. You are indeed my sworn brother, ha ha ha. Fatty was skipping and whooping in joy. Now that the bet was off, he could chase Long Kuei to his heart's content. Fan smiled. Fatty, what does the secret pearl order truly say? The Fatty dropped his smile, watching Fan with embarrassment. Brother? Didn't I say it already? This plan is very delicate, and even the goal is fair. But, Fan squinted, it lacks ambition. So much so that an emperor of a founding empire would never come up with it. The great ancestor showed great ambition when he established the empire. Fan wasn't gullible enough to believe the secret Millennium Order was limited to restricting the 7 houses and maintaining a balance of power. Fatty shook his head. I do not know either. This was what I've been told. Fan stared him down but discovered nothing else. Maybe he knew nothing, or maybe his acting was top-notch. Then how did Hell Valley catch wind of this 1,000-year-old secret edict? Fan smiled. All of Hell Valley's actions were against the secret edict while looking innocent doing it. They were afraid of the imperial family's investigation. Fatty frowned. Reason points to the contrary, but there are many spies in the imperial capital. The information about secret edict might have leaked. It remained hidden for 1,000 years and only now it gets leaked? Fan frowned. Maybe leaking it is part of the secret edict's contents. The Fatty shivered and went wide-eyed. Fan smirked. It's clear now. Never mind, it works in Luo clan's benefit anyway. So there's no need to poke my nose in it. There's no need to worry over nothing, haha. Fan waved as he left. Fatty, I'll be going. We'll meet again if we get the chance. A voice rang in Fatty's ear as Fan's figure distanced. This kid is perhaps too sharp, scary even. Whoosh! It was Feng Choubai in his blue robe. Feng Choubai muttered. The more I watch him, the more he resembles someone. Who? Fatty asked. Feng Choubai's eyes flashed. Zhuge Changfeng. The leader of 4 pillars. Prime Minister Zhuge Changfeng? Fatty was in shock. Are you saying Fan? Nodding, Feng Choubai smiled. Songer, becoming sworn brothers with him was the best decision you made in your life. One day, he will become one of your 4 pillars, helping you rule. The Fatty was stunned, watching Fan getting further away as ambition flickered in his eyes. Fan returned to the small courtyard and saw the others waiting outside. What's wrong? Did Third Prince say something? Luo Yunchang was worried. He refused Veiled Dragon Pavilion's invitation, but this was the imperial family. With just a nod, he could become an official with the support of the imperial family. Secretly smiling, Fan said, Fatty told me to do my best in fulfilling the secret edict. Luo Yunchang covered Fan's mouth, then looked around before saying, How can you call Third Prince like that? Be careful or he might take your life. He won't. He still needs me. Fan dismissed her worry and even gave a thumbs up to Luo Yunhai. Your performance was perfect, worthy of a clan head. You made me proud. Please, didn't I learn it all from bro? Luo Yunhai stuck up his chin. It was clear the bro he referred to was Zhuofan. Everyone laughed and Luo Yunchang showed a relieved smile. Dad, can you see? Yunhai has grown up. He can shoulder the honor and glory of the Luo clan. Luo Yunchang looked at the sky with sparkling eyes. On the second day after the meeting, the new clan was established with Luo clan at the helm. The name was, of course, Luo clan. Zhuofan, with the imperial family's support, had no trouble becoming the head steward of the clan, handling all affairs. He appointed Lei Yuntian as Luo clan's grand elder and Kai Rong as the second elder while keeping Old Pang as the captain of the guards, leading the Kai clan's guards. Lei Yuding was made the leader of the Shadow Corps, taking Black Wind Mountain's bandits under her, and in charge of intelligence gathering and training assassins. Because of the imperial family's decree, the Veiled Dragon Pavilion and Hell Valley were banned from entering the Windgaze city. The rest of the 7 houses remained within their borders, thus making this city belong to the Luo clan alone. As for the Luo clan's estate, Kai clan suggested for it to be the former Kai Manor, but Zhuofan had other plans. Black Wind Mountain, the place where a natural array took form. And so, another Devil Mountain was established, and Zhuofan's plans advanced one step at a time. Chapter 51 4 Pillars Leader. Chapter 51 4 Pillars Leader. The slums in the imperial capital were the darkest corners of the empire. Seedy, good, devious, and all other kinds of people mixed in here, along with the down shacks painted a perfectly wretched image. Any self-respecting man who had some money on the side would never choose to live here. Only those living from one day to the next and the truly poor stayed here, waiting for the day that would rob them of their lives. Yet in the worst corner of the slums was a courtyard the people feared to the point of being afraid to step through its doors. Even if the vilest and most sinister man was to wander by happenstance here, he would be warned to leave this house be. This courtyard was unoccupied, but at night, there were eerie whispers coming from it. Some braved to investigate, but it was as if their traces in this world vanished the moment they stepped foot inside. Recently, some bone tempering and even a profound heaven expert charged in, fearing no evil. Afterwards, while there was no news, they were gone all the same. From that moment, the courtyard became a taboo, avoided by the strong and weak alike. On a full moon night, when the slums had turned unusually quiet, the people had gone home earlier and as far away from the demonic courtyard as possible. But it was then that a faint lantern lit up in the courtyard. It was akin to ghost fire flickering on and off. In a ruined room of the courtyard, an elderly with white temples sat in a pleased manner on a tutor's chair, waving a goose-feathered fan. His half-lidded eyes flashed here and there, and his mouth was twisted at the corners. It was as if the world's suffering and happiness were beneath him. 2 old men stood behind, one with black hair and the other with white hair. Their eyes were closed, but their powerful auras identified them as experts, preventing any living creature from approaching 100 meters around them. Even a harmless beetle would find its tiny heart reeked with fear. Whoosh! A sound broke the silence and a black-clothed man suddenly appeared outside the room. He had a bamboo hat that hid his features. The sitting old man stopped fanning and smiled. Valley Lord Yu, how is it progressing? The bamboo-wearing man was Hell Valley's Valley Lord, Yu Wanshan. Sighing, Yu Wanshan shook his head. A dozen years of painstaking effort was ruined. The Emperor ordered for Hell Valley to stay away from Windgaze City. The same goes for the other houses. He must have sensed something. Oh, the old man raised an eyebrow with a smile. The Emperor is planning on enacting the secret pearl order. My guess is yes. Yu Wanshan's face grew angry. They got luck on their side last time, but next time it won't be so simple. Emperor wants to raise the 8th house, but we shall see if the clan can live to see that day. Ha ha, Valley Lord Yu, ease your anger. A loss is a loss. Why make excuses? The old man was still calm, yet his words were sharp and filled with disdain. Hell Valley is one of the 7 noble houses, yet it can't even deal with 3 common clans. The time of its fall must be close at hand. Yu Wanshan snapped, his power exploding. Peak profound heaven cultivation smashed the windows to splinters. He unleashed all of it to pressure the old man. Zhuge Changfeng, you were the one who told me of the contents of the secret pearl order. It was also you who said the emperor wants to help in the rise of the 8th house. The dozen years plan also came from you. So how can you speak like this? Yuanshan bellowed, go to hell. The smile never left the old man's face, still sitting calmly and fanning slowly. Boom! Just when the pressure was drawing near Zhuge Changfeng, the black and white elders behind him opened their eyes. At that moment, one's eyes flashed black while the other's flashed white. A ripple echoed outwards and clashed with Yuanshan's display of power, creating a jarring sound. The entire slum shook. Yuanshan felt a sweetness in his throat and spat blood as his face paled. The two elders closed their eyes again, while Zhuge Changfeng swayed the fan like nothing had happened, still sporting that ever-present smile. Yuanshan watched the black and white elders incredulously. Yin Yang elders. Zhuge Changfeng nodded. Valley Lord, you sure is knowledgeable. These seniors haven't shown up over the past century. I find it amazing that you still recognize them. Grinding his teeth in anger, Yuanshan panted while also spitting blood now and then, but the look he had when he turned to the elders was now one of fear. You are worthy of being Tianyu's #1 sage, 4 pillars as leader, Prime Minister Zhuge. To be able to make these monsters leave their mountain, not even that Feng Qiubai from the divine dragons can compare to you. Ha ha ha, Valley Lord, you is exaggerating. I am not worthy of such a title. I do not dare face the imperial family in the open just yet. Zhuge Changfeng let out a short laugh, but the confidence he exuded was unshakable. Yuanshan snorted and muttered, Prime Minister Zhuge is as modest as he is arrogant. Who in the Tianyu Empire can match your power? Not even the imperial family can. Sai, I can see why you failed in Windgaze City. In this world, strength and weakness aren't obvious at a glance. Zhuge Changfeng sighed as he looked at the sky. Furthermore, I am not the #1 sage in Tianyu. If not you, then who? That person above me. Zhuge Changfeng pointed upward with a grave expression. Yuanshan disdained. You're talking about that senile emperor. Senile? Zhuge Changfeng chuckled. I've been a prime minister in the imperial court for 40 years now, and I still can't read him. Valley Lord, you go back. Make sure to not cause any further trouble. Zhuge Changfeng swayed his fan as his countenance went back to normal. Be careful to not give that old man the perfect chance to remove you for good. Humph, the imperial family's power is hardly enough to deal with my Hell Valley. Yuanshan grinned, but when he saw the cold look in Zhuge Changfeng's eye, he didn't continue. He just cupped his hands and vanished in the night. After Yuanshan left, Zhuge Changfeng took a deep breath and looked to the heavens. Your Majesty, what is your plan? What is the secret pearl order? 3 months later, in the misty forest at the foot of Black Wind Mountain, Zhuofan stood near a frigid blood pool, holding a gourd. His hands performed signs and red dots flew from the pool into the gourd. A smile tugged at Zhuofan's face as he watched the wiggling red dots. This blood pond was something Zhuofan made to raise the frigid pool snow worm, though its name should more aptly be frigid pool bloodworm. Zhuofan used a secret art from the 9 Serenities secret records to train this particular demonic creature, so it not only retained the parasitic ability of the frigid pool snow worm, but it also connected to Zhuofan through telepathy. It could now work in tandem with him in performing a secret and evil magic art from the 9 Serenities secret records, the blood curse. The blood curse was a demonic cultivator's way of controlling his men. Once he put the blood curse on someone, they had to obey him for life. If not, the blood curse would flare up and the victim would die of blood explosion. A cruel and savage ending. But the blood curse had a fatal flaw. If the target was stronger than the caster, the later would be devoured. This wasn't anything good for Zhuofan. But now that Zhuofan had the bloodworm, this flaw could be eliminated. Since the bloodworm lived in the target's body, they would never be able to remove the blood curse. With this special demonic creature, Zhuofan would be in control of a large group of experts to assist him. If anyone heard of this, they'd come to kill Zhuofan themselves, even Radiant Stage experts. This demonic creature was an abomination, an affront to heaven. Any listener would shiver hearing one could make any expert into a slave. With a maniac grin on his face, Zhuofan took the gourd filled with bloodworms and left Misty Forest. He performed a hand sign and the forest fog turned bloody, barring any entry. This was his rearing grounds. Why would he ever let another find it? Stashing the gourd in his ring, Zhuo Fan returned to Black Wind Mountain. On his way, he paid attention to every grass, every tree to make sure all was in order. Over the past 3 months, besides the imperial family sending thousands of spirit stones and hundreds of pills, the Veiled Dragon Pavilion also sent 2,000 spirit stones. He had enough spirit stones on hand that he could flaunt his array grandmaster's skills. Plus, with the natural array here, he could still set up some decent defensive array even without such an amount of spirit stones. To the east of Black Wind Mountain was the Azure Dragon position under the wood attribute. It was a place filled with vitality. As such, Zhuo Fan set up a 5th grade array, Poison Dragon Array. Poisonous thickets grew inside the array, and the miasma above them would never scatter. Even a profound heaven expert would find it hard to escape with his life. To the west was the White Tiger position under the metal attribute. It was a place filled with sharp and overgrown plants. Zhuo Fan set up a 5th grade array, Dazzling Gold Array. 9 suns shined brightly within the array in every direction that no one could walk with their eyes open. Each ray of golden light was like a sharp sword, capable of robbing people of their lives, yet incorporeal. To the south was the Vermilion Bird position of the fire attribute, filled with burning chi. Zhuo Fan set the 5th grade array, Black Flame Array. The fires within it were demonic flames that corroded bones. When it entered one's body, it would be hard to remove, and it wouldn't stop gnawing until the target was burned to ashes. To the north was the Black Tortoise position of the water attribute, a place filled with piercing chills. Zhuo Fan set up the 5th grade array, Ice Shadows Array. Howling winds blew within the array's territory, forming endless illusions. Anyone who entered it would lose their way easily and freeze to death under the bone-piercing coldness that seeped into the victim's body. Zhuo Fan didn't tell anyone about the 4 new arrays. But since today was the day of his departure, he had to give the array's method of control to those he trusted. Chapter 52 Departure. Chapter 52 Departure. Young miss, come with me. Zhuo Fan beckoned Luo Yunchang. She was unclear as to the reason, but she followed nonetheless. She was filled with glee as she saw so many things brought from the imperial family over the past few days. Especially with 2 elders standing watch, Luo clan was becoming stronger day by day. She was so moved that she was lost for words. It got so far that she even let Zhuo Fan's disappearance for these past 3 months slide. Steward Zhuo, is there something? Luo Yunchang smiled as they entered a small room. Zhuo Fan closed the windows and doors without replying. Her thoughts started going in a particular direction and her face flushed. Zhuo Fan, what are you trying to do? Luo Yunchang was bashful. Taking a deep breath, Zhuo Fan began, I'm leaving. What? Luo Yunchang stood there in shock. She had a face of complete disbelief, wondering if she had heard him wrongly. Only when Zhuo Fan repeated was she certain. Why, Luo clan is growing and is already the #1 clan in Windgaze City. Why do you want to leave? For Luo clan's safety. Zhuo Fan's tone was grave. Luo clan is safe for now. And there's no other clan around to mess with it. But remember what we had to do in exchange for all this. We accepted the imperial family's vague secret pearl order, and offended the 7 noble houses Hell Valley. As for Veiled Dragon Pavilion, if we do not rise to the level of the 7 houses, they will change their stance with us. Then we need you even more. What will we do without you? Luo Yunchang teared up. Her heart was unwilling to let him go. In a blink, a glittering tear fell. Wiping her tears away with a gentle touch, Zhuo Fan said, Fatty was right about one thing. A clan's foundation is strength. I am leaving now to bring back experts for the Luo clan, to protect our future. This is the control method of the 4 arrays around Black Wind Mountain. Only you must use it. If I'm not back in time, you can activate the arrays to deal with any trouble that arises. These are 4 5th grade arrays plus the Wraith array in the Misty Forest. It should defend you for a good while. Zhuo Fan gave a jade slip to Luo Yunchang, who accepted it in tears. She asked softly, how long will you be gone? Sighing, Zhuo Fan shook his head, I don't know. But I'll be back as soon as I can. He wasn't leaving just to recruit experts, but also to search for the Heavenly Emperor's remnant Long Jiu talked about, Lightning Canyon. At any given time, raising one's power was the most basic way to guarantee one's safety. Alright, go now. Send Captain Pang and Yun Hai in. Nodding, Luo Yunchang left but stopped to kiss Zhuo Fan. He froze for a moment and watched her leave with a deep look. Luo Yunchang blushed but didn't turn around as she mumbled, "Come back soon?" When the words came, she was already gone. Not a moment later, Captain Pang brought Luo Yunhai over. Even they were shocked that Zhuo Fan was leaving. "Silly kid, you're the only man of the Luo clan. Your sister will have to rely on you in the future. You must act like a true clan head who bears the Luo clan's responsibilities." Zhuo Fan patted Yunhai's shoulder. Luo Yunhai nodded while sobbing. Turning to Captain Pang, Zhuo Fan's hand flashed and revealed a jade slip. But when Captain Pang was about to take it, Zhuo Fan clenched his fist. Captain Pang looked at him in doubt. Zhuo Fan stared hard at him. "Pang Yu, do you remember what Long Kuei said? She is right, with your talent, you'll only be a qi condensation cultivator at best." Captain Pang's face darkened, his hand shivered and withdrew a bit. But Zhuo Fan's tone turned grave. "Nothing is set in stone. I have on me a way to change your body anew, to gain incredible power. But the terror you will experience would be worse than death, and the pain unimaginable. Are you willing?" Captain Pang was stunned. Then he was overjoyed. "Truly." Nodding, Zhuo Fan raised the jade slip. "This is a mid-profound ranked demonic method, Wraith Art. It is unlike other cultivation methods. It is a cultivation method for the body, ignoring one's talent for cultivation or his constitution. Just that cultivating it will make your life a living hell. It's no different from being boiled alive. And once you start, you can never stop or your soul will perish." Captain Pang licked his dry lips, yet he wasn't afraid, his eyes only held excitement. "No worries. As long as I can become strong, no torment shall best old Pang." Captain Pang snatched the jade slip as he shouted. Zhuo Fan reminded him, "The horrors you will experience from cultivating it aren't something you can fathom. Maybe you will be under such a pain that your mind will collapse and die in the end. This is a mid-profound ranked cultivation method, matching a high-profound ranked cultivation method. But with the process being so excruciating, many great demonic cultivators never even dared to touch it. Choose wisely." Waving his hand, Captain Pang's eyes flickered. "Brother Zhuo, old Pang's only torment in this life was to see clan head die before me and unable to stop it. Now my greatest wish is to protect young miss and young master." Captain Pang looked gratefully. "Brother Zhuo, thank you for giving me this chance to have no more regrets." Zhuo Fan's heart shivered as he nodded. His eyes held respect. "The next time we see each other, I hope to see a powerful old Pang and not a corpse." "Haha, no worries. I am stubborn, not one to die from just this." Captain Pang laughed and squeezed Zhuo Fan in a bear hug with moist eyes. "Brother, come back soon. Luo clan won't be the same without you." Patting Zhuo Fan's shoulder, Captain Pang left with Luo Yunhai. Per Zhuo Fan's instructions, Lei Yuding came soon after. "Miss Lei, how was the task I gave you?" Zhuo Fan smiled. Lei Yuding blushed with a nod. "Brother Zhuo, the 610-year-old children you asked me to gather are almost here. They all are high talents and await your teachings." Zhuo Fan eyed her then nodded. "How did you know that I wanted to teach them?" Lei Yuding spoke with confidence. "I know you too well to believe that you helped those orphans out of the goodness of your heart. So I guessed you wanted to train them as Luo clan's guards and make me their leader." At her words, Zhuo Fan recalled something and sighed. "Goodness? I once raised an orphan out of kindness and look where it got me. Didn't he betray me in the end?" Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed coldly at that point, scaring Lei Yuding. "Miss Lei." Zhuo Fan held a jade slip. "This is a mid-spirit ranked cultivation method, elusive shadow art. Cultivate it and then give it to those you trust to form the shadow core, protecting the clan in the dark. Begin with the 600 children the same way I taught you. Use the worst of them as guards, the average for the shadow core, and hand the best among them over to Captain Pang to train them in secret. Pass him my word, he'll understand." Lei Yuding took the jade slip with a blank look, then stared at Zhuo Fan, her heart uneasy. "Why not do it yourself?" "I'm leaving." "What?" Lei Yuding asked. "Why?" Fan was forced to retell his reasons. Lei Yuding nodded, but before she went out the door, she pecked Fan's cheek. He was floored, watching her dash away in a blink. What is going on? Do all women like to peck? Next was Lei Yuntian's turn. Fan explained to him his affairs, and Lei Yuntian took his instructions to heart in an honest manner. Although he was the Grand Elder, he was clear Fan controlled everything. Elder Lei. Fan took out another jade slip. This is the profound ranked martial art I recorded after merging the 3 clans' martial arts, Thunder Wind Sweeping Dragon Art. Since this is part of the Imperial family's Secret Pearls order, this will be the Luo clan's best martial art on the surface. As the Grand Elder, you need to be diligent in practicing it. Lei Yuntian raised an eyebrow but nodded. Fan put an emphasis on the words on the surface, making it clear he had other high-ranked martial arts that the Imperial family was unaware of, his secret weapons. A day may come when the Imperial family might discover that the 8th house they raised was out of their control, but at that time it would already be too late. Fan was young, but his wisdom and shrewdness drew the old man's admiration. Rest assured, Steward Zhua, I will be the best Grand Elder there is. Lei Yuntian laughed, reaching an understanding with Fan. Even without Fan's reminder, he was clear what it meant to stand close to a ruler, and that the Imperial family wasn't to be trusted. But Fan gave this old man the nerve to tangle with this behemoth. Right, Steward Zhua, what of Kai clan's father and son? Lei Yuntian frowned. It's already been 3 months since the merger of the 3 clans, but I still feel that the Kai clan is of a different thought, always acting suspiciously. The Black Wind Mountains guards have people from the Kai manor. I fear. Let them. Fan waved with a smile. The Kai clan is part of the Secret Pearl Order. If we deal with them, we'll earn the Imperial family's ire. But if they betray us first, Lei Yuntian's eyes flashed with a nod. You're amazing, Steward Zhua, to plan so far ahead. Fan squinted as killing intent filled his eyes. On the morning of the 2nd day, Fan left Black Wind Mountain all by himself. On the mountain peak, Luo Yunchang, Lei Yuding and Lei Yuntian along with other Luo clan members watched him leave. All except Kai clan's duo. But in the forest halfway up the mountain, Kai Rong and his son watched Fan's retreating figure with cold eyes. Humph, without this wretched punk, Luo clan will fall from grace. Kai shouting snorted. That stinky girl Luo Yunchang made eyes with Fan every single day, not sparing me even a glance. With Fan gone, Black Wind Mountain is ours. Let's see her act haughty now. Sigh, one must give credit to Fan for his rare talent. He has Veiled Dragon Pavilion on his left and Third Prince on his right, while he himself has the power to shake the 3 clans. All of Black Wind Mountain knows the true clan head of this merged clan is him. Kai Rong shook his head. The most unfortunate thing is that he chose to be against us. Since he is leaving, we might as well take everything back. Dad, what do we do? Kai shouting asked. Shaking his head, Kai Rong said, don't be hasty. With Fan gone, the Luo clan is nothing. The Lei clan is our true enemy. We need to ally ourselves and become stronger than the Lei clan. Chapter 53 All Beast Mountain Range. Chapter 53 All Beast Mountain Range. In the shadow of a large forest, a black-robed figure stood on the precipice of a mountain. His eyes took in the view of a large city gate with 3 golden words inscribed on it, Blue Expanse City. Raising the corner of his mouth, the black-robed man left as the wind scattered 2 piles of black dust. 15 minutes later, the man arrived before the city gates. Hold, where's your pass? With a clank, 2 city guards crossed their spears before the man as they released their 6th-layer chi condensation cultivation. Taking out a metal tablet with the serene character inscribed on it, the black-robed man let them see it. The guards nodded and let him pass. Enter. The black-robed man quickened his pace, but after 100 meters, he turned his head at the guards, eyeing them with disdain. Utterly useless. The man raised his head and exposed his face. It was Fan. It had been a month since he left Luo clan, and this city was his first destination, Blue Expanse City. This place was Hell Valley's domain. Just how Veiled Dragon Pavilion placed its guards in the Windgaze City, so did Hell Valley in this city. To avoid anyone recognizing him, Shuofan put on a black robe. He braved through this deadly danger because he was left with no other choice. Who told the spiritual beasts to gather on the All-Beast mountain range near the Blue Expanse city? This was also why the security was so tight in this city. Be it righteous or demonic cultivators, there were other external means to increase one's power besides the hard and arduous method of cultivation. Spiritual weapons, demonic treasures, spirit animals, demonic creatures. These were all external means but of significant importance. At the time of peril, it could save one's life. The late elder of Hell Valley was a good example. Condor Jianfan's soul-devouring crow had the purple lightning gold eye, and could push back Veiled Dragon Pavilion's 3 elders' joint attack. Longzhou's third-grade spiritual weapon was another, helping him push back 2 Hell Valley's elders with just a sword. It was obvious how important these external means were to cultivators. Spiritual beasts could be turned into demonic creatures or spirit animals. Righteous cultivators tamed them into spirit animals, while demonic cultivators tamed them into demonic creatures. Shuofan's blood infant, which was born naturally, was an exception. The Blue Expanse city was taken by Hell Valley during the founding of the Tianyu Empire. As such, any cultivator wanting to get his spirit animal or demonic creature would have to obtain Hell Valley's approval. And Hell Valley used this as a pretext to set up a checkpoint half a mile around it to confirm everyone's identities, allowing entry to only those with a pass. But how could Shuofan expose himself and offer himself up on a chopping block? So he killed 2 righteous cultivators outside, stole their pass and waltzed right in. Humph, Hell Valley can only intimidate some shy disciples with this. You think this is enough to deal with a bold cultivator or a profound heaven expert? Shuofan's mouth let out snide remarks as he walked on. He came all this way to All-Beast Mountain Range looking for a rare 6th-level spiritual beast, Thunder Skylark. Entering Lightning Canyon could only be done through the purple lightning. Shuofan was certain Longzhou's third heaven purple lightning wasn't the same as the lightning from that place, or it would have reached the 6th heaven. That kind of power was a deterrence even for a radiant stage expert. So before he cleared Lightning Canyon's restrictions, he had to first find a way to guarantee his life in that place. And the Thunder Skylark, a creature that lived by swallowing lightning, was a perfect choice. Oh, when he'd made it his demonic creature that matched the demon transformation art, he'd have no trouble getting in. Shuofan hoped Lightning Canyon's purple lightning wasn't higher than 6th heaven, or not even the Thunder Skylark would survive repeated blows to its body and turn to ash. If that happens, then he'd only be waiting for his death. Shuofan took a deep breath and picked up the pace. If not for Heavenly Emperor's remnant, he'd never dare go through such danger. Bam! As he walked, a black figure knocked into his chest. Shuofan looked down to find a little beggar in shabby clothes. Shuofan was enraged, but before he could curse, here came the little beggar's pleading voice, "Please don't shout." Shuofan frowned. Then from his back, a group of 30 chi condensation cultivators appeared. Because the beggar hid in front of Shuofan, his black cloak was wide enough to hide the beggar. Any sign of him? None. What are you standing around for? Find him. If we don't find him, Master will have our heads. A steward cursed. The others only nodded as they scattered. Once they were gone, the beggar looked up with a relieved breath and patted his chest. Scared me to death. I didn't think I'd make it. Shuofan ignored him and walked away. Brother. The beggar was stunned for a second, then swooped in to block Shuofan's path. He had a dark and dirty face but sported an extra big smile as he said, "Thank you for earlier. If it weren't for you." But Shuofan kept walking. The beggar stood there blinking, then hurriedly caught up with Shuofan. "Brother, did you come from outside the city? Can you take me outside, please? If you want to leave, do it alone. You don't need a pass to go out." Shuofan dodged him. The little beggar's face was bitter as he bit his lip and sniffed twice as tears rolled down his cheeks. "Brother, to be honest, I stole from them. If they catch me, I'm a goner. Please take me outside." Smiling, Shuofan eyed him, around 15-16 years old and a 4th-layer chi condensation cultivator. "You're not weak for your age. There's no way a commoner can have such cultivation. Are you truly a beggar?" The beggar stopped crying and his eyes darted everywhere as if looking for an excuse. Zhuofan continued with a smile, "And even if you're sincere, why should I help you and offend a powerful clan? I see no reason why I need to help you." Zhuofan then shook his head and walked past him. The beggar stood frozen in his spot, not knowing what to do. He didn't think Zhuofan was pragmatic. From the start, the beggar thought Zhuofan to be a kind youth since he helped him once. "Don't you want to go to the All-Beast Mountain Range?" the beggar shouted. Zhuofan halted his steps. "All who come here are looking to go to the All-Beast Mountain Range. What else is here? Visiting Hell Valley's cemetery." The beggar was stunned by his words. This kid sure has an attitude. Isn't he afraid of being killed for cursing Hell Valley? But the more Zhuofan acted as such, the weirder the beggar's eyes turned. "You'll have to wait for 3 months before going to All-Beast Mountain Range." Zhuofan stopped with a frown. "Why?" The beggar skipped to him with a smile. "Let me tell you, the diamond sand is about to come out on All-Beast Mountain Range. These past months Hell Valley sealed the whole mountain range for this precise reason." Diamond sand. Zhuofan was secretly overjoyed. The diamond sand was known as the blood of the earth, rare and difficult to obtain. It was used for refining 5th-grade spiritual weapons. But what made it even more valuable was that it was a flowing spirit metal, a perfect match for his blood infant. His blood infant was close to breaking through to bone tempering stage and he needed to refine its body. At that time, blood infant could switch between being corporeal and elusive, killing people without leaving tracks. Refining it with 100 spirit metals would turn it as hard as a demonic treasure, and it would become difficult to cause any harm to it. He could also achieve a similar result by refining blood infant with diamond sand. If he was able to do it, then he wouldn't have to worry about obtaining 100 spirit metals. And with a body refined from diamond sand, facing a profound heaven expert would be a cinch. Thinking of this, Zhuofan's eyes flashed with excitement. The beggar saw through Zhuofan and coughed as he raised his head with pride. "Let's make a deal. If you take me outside the city, I will take you to All-Beast Mountain Range. And when the diamond sand erupts, we can take advantage of their carelessness and steal a bit." Zhuofan secretly snickered. There was no way Hell Valley didn't prepare for this. But the fact that he had a guide to enter All-Beast Mountain Range without them knowing was a nice bonus. "Deal." The beggar raised his hand and winked. Zhuofan shook his head and slapped the beggar's hand. "Oh, ha ha, awesome. I finally found someone to take me out of this damnable place." The beggar laughed while jumping around. "Brother, what's your name?" "Zhuofan." Zhuofan was blunt because he knew even though Hell Valley was aware of the Luo clan, his title as a steward wasn't well known. And the only one who knows that he killed 2 of their elders was Yang Ming. But would anyone believe him even if he said it? Zhuofan was confident that Yang Ming would let this matter fester inside him. If anyone knew that Elder Jian died at the hands of a qi condensation punk, yet he survived, his future would be bleak if not cut short. Moreover, even if he did speak up, Hell Valley would never announce it. Could they afford to lose any more reputation? The beggar laughed. "Brother Zhuo. Call me Xiao Ning." "Fine." Zhuofan nodded, not caring much because he knew it was fake. The beggar pouted, looking at him with a deep look full of curiosity. Zhuofan gave him a different impression from all those he had seen before, simply mysterious. Chapter 54 He's with me. Chapter 54 He's with me. Ninger. Just when the little beggar was about to take Zhuofan to All-Beast Mountain Range, a yell echoed in their ears. Little beggar shivered, turning his head shyly. With slow footsteps, what appeared before the two was an elegant young master in white with tied hair. He was in front of 20 qi condensation experts donning the same clothes as the ones from the previous group. The young master ignored Zhuofan and glared at the beggar with rage. "You've caused enough trouble. It's time you return." Biting his lip, the beggar's eyes looked uncertain, but soon he came to a decision and stared back with a firm gaze. He dodged behind Zhuofan with a yell. "Brother Zhuo, save me." The young master finally picked up on Zhuofan's presence, merely glancing his phoenix eyes his way. "This concerns our Shui clan. If Sir does not want any trouble, I suggest you leave." Shui clan. Shuafan quirked an eyebrow and stared long at the beggar. I didn't think this buddy had offended the Shui clan. Shui clan was the #1 common clan in Blue Expanse City. It had a profound heaven expert as overseer, and could be considered a second-rate clan on the continent. But as Blue Expanse City was under Hell Valley's control, Shui clan was nothing more than its vassal. Shuafan saw the beggar pleading with his eyes and smiled as he drew the beggar closer. The young master squinted and paled. The beggar was also surprised, and a faint red tint made itself notice on his dirty cheeks. Kid, what do you think you're doing? The young master bellowed. Shuafan snickered. From now on, he's under me. If you want him, you'll have to pass through me first. Absurd. Did you come to Blue Expanse City without even knowing of our Shui clan? Is our clan someone you can offend? Ha ha, Shuafan laughed and shook his head. Of course I know. Shui clan is Hell Valley's #1 dog in Blue Expanse City. You're telling me to ignore all those rare and amazing spiritual beasts on All Beast Mountain Range for a lame dog? The young master was about to explode from anger. The beggar was also angry and pushed Shuafan. Don't talk of Shui clan like that. Shuafan was stunned. I am venting your anger, yet you still blame me? Men, seize them. As Shuafan was lost for words, the young master bellowed orders. The men behind him swarmed the two. The beggar woke up to who the enemy was and hid behind Shuafan. Sneering, Shuafan picked up on the fact that these guards were mostly 5th-layer qi condensation cultivators, with only 2 in the 6th layer. A bunch of fishes looking for death. Shuafan attacked with disdain. His hand flashed red and struck with blood palm. It hit a guard's chest, and the victim felt all his blood vessels burst and his organs expand to the point of bursting. He spat blood before collapsing. Another palm flew and the next guard fell. This pattern went on and on. The group of 20 guards fell one by one under Shuafan's onslaught. The young master had long been standing there in shock. Even with his 8th-layer qi condensation cultivation, he would be unable to deal with 20 men like Shuafan did. It was clear that Shuafan was only in the 5th layer. Yet his simple palm dealt each guard a serious wound. What escaped his eyes, though, was that Shuafan's blood palm bypassed a person's flesh and struck at the blood vessels. It was the same as ignoring the body's defense and attacking the vulnerable organs within, so of course it was far deadlier than it looked. In but a few breaths, all guards were on the ground, knocked out. The young master witnessed it all with a solemn expression. The beggar's eyes also bulged in wonder. So you do know a thing or two, kid. No wonder you're so smug. The young master gnashed his teeth and jumped, shattering the stones beneath his feet. Then let me Shui gang coerce her with my high martial arts. Shui gang. Shuafan frowned. Are you Shui clan's young master? I heard your dad pampers you and you are to be the clan's successor. So, are you afraid perchance? Shui gang shouted. Shuafan shook his head. No, I just don't like annoyances. If I offend you here, my days in Blue Expanse City will be harder. It's best to shut all these people up for good and bring peace to my ears. Shuafan's eyes flashed with killing intent and shot forward. Such pressure from him squeezed at Shui gang's heart. He never dreamed Shuafan would dare to kill him. The naked killing intent made his yuan qi slow down. Even if he was 3 layers higher than Shuafan. He, who was praised to high heaven for his talent in cultivation, couldn't foresee the world housing such a ruthless youth. A mere 5th-layer qi condensation cultivator was able to overwhelm an expert 3 layers higher. He watched in abject fear as the palm neared his chest and was moments away from rupturing his heart. But in this moment of impending crisis, he bit his tongue to wake up. The pain freed him from the killing intent's horrifying grip. With no time to lose, he punched. Blue lights shot like a tornado at Shuafan. High mortal ranked martial art. Howling fist. Shuafan snorted in disdain and made a hand sign so that a red light flew right into Shui gang's body. Before the howling fist even touched Shuafan, it broke apart and Shui gang's body froze on the spot in panic. At this moment Shuafan towered over him. Seeing Shuafan's devious grin, Shui gang felt like he was looking at a demon and his heart seized up for a few seconds. Bam! Shuafan's palm landed on his chest and Shui gang spat blood as he flew into the air. His organs felt like they were burning and his blood vessels began to rupture. But the pain had yet to register when the demon approached. Shui Gang was so scared he was having a mental breakdown. This was Zhuo Fan. He didn't strike with another palm and instead, Zhuo Fan grabbed Shui Gang's neck with a sneer. Young Master Shui, worry not. After you die, your servants will follow in your footsteps, down to the last one. This should keep the Shui clan from chasing me all over for at least 3 months. Let's make this case cold. Zhuo Fan tightened the chokehold and Shui Gang felt his throat almost breaking. He could even hear his bones creak. He was on the brink of death. Besides agony, nothing else was felt. Not for the life of him could he understand what he did wrong. Wasn't he only going to bring Ninger back? Why did he meet a Reaper instead? A ruthless killer. I forgot to read my future before heading out. If his neck wasn't being crushed by Zhuo Fan, he'd be wailing and bawling. Damn it, what rotten luck. Stop. Just when Zhuo Fan wanted to apply the last bit of force and send the young master to paradise, the beggar yelled. Zhuo Fan eyed him suspiciously. What are you doing? Aren't they your enemies? The beggar was filled with worry for Shui Gang's life that even tears formed in his eyes. In fact, he wanted to stop Zhuo Fan long ago, but Zhuo Fan was just too fast. He dealt with the guards in one moment, and in the next, he was at Shui Gang's throat. Even if they are, I don't want to kill them, the beggar cried. Zhuo Fan frowned. Why didn't you say so? But it's too late now. They are no longer just your enemies, they are mine too. The only ending for my enemies is death. Zhuo Fan's hand tightened and Shui Gang's eyes bulged out. He wasn't far off from dying. If you don't release him, I won't guide you, the beggar yelled in tears. Zhuo Fan frowned. This was his first time seeing a person shed tears for their enemies. He let go and Shui Gang dropped on the ground. Zhuo Fan made a sign and Blood Infant returned as he shrugged. Since you aren't scared, why would I be over some future inconvenience? He wiped the tears off the beggar's little face and walked away while holding the beggar close. Show the way. Then I will take you outside the city, far from Shui clan. Why you baddie? The little beggar stammered. Zhuo Fan sneered. Correct, I'm a bad man. But in this world, they are the only ones who can survive. The good guys have already left for hell. The beggar wiped his tears and looked at Zhuo Fan unafraid. He had seen his fair share of bad people, but none rose to Zhuo Fan's level. Yet he never felt any hatred for Zhuo Fan as he did for others. Instead, he felt at ease. This feeling he didn't express, but it felt nice anyway. An hour later, a black figure appeared standing in Zhuo Fan's previous position. The old man's beard shivered from rage at the sight of the guards on the ground. He noticed Shui Gang twitching on the ground, helped him up and asked nervously, Ganger, what's wrong? Who did this to you? Shui Gang gasped with a pale face, yet not one word was uttered. The old man looked him over and found that only Shui Gang's insides were wounded, while below him was a puddle of water. He gave Shui Gang a pill then let out a long breath. But Shui Gang's injury astonished him. His wound wasn't heavy, only needing a month to heal. But his mind, however, had received a heavy shock. He was frightened so badly he peed himself. Ganger is a bold youth. Only a dreadful expert could have scared him to such a state in such a short time. The old man was bewildered as he pondered for a long time. In the end, he shook his head and left with Shui Gang. No matter who it was, any who dared offend Shui clan in Blue Expanse City would have another thing coming. Chapter 55 Peak Bone Tempering Stage. Chapter 55 Peak Bone Tempering Stage. That's the path up the mountain. The beggar and Zhuo Fan poked their heads through a bush close to a narrow mountain path. Zhuo Fan looked ahead and frowned, seeing 30 bone tempering guards. With his strength and savage moon along with Blood Infant's help, it wasn't hard to charge through. But to do it without anyone noticing was the problem. Any noise here would attract the elder from Hell Valley stationed within. And since Shui clan's profound heaven expert was after him, he'd have a hard time coming out alive. After careful deliberation, Zhuo Fan shook his head. He'd have to rely on the little beggar if he wanted to go within the mountain's range. Xiao Ning, where's the secret tunnel? Zhuo Fan looked at the little beggar. The latter was still feeling afraid of what he had witnessed some time ago. He wasn't crying but still sniffed. See, come with me, said the little beggar while sniffing hard. Then he and Zhuofan vanished from the bushes. Zhuofan felt helpless. Why is this kid more of a coward than a mouse? Ever since he saw what I did. He keeps crying from fear, even now. They were the enemies chasing you down, not your family. So why are you crying so hard? Zhuofan secretly cursed but was resigned to his fate. Who told him to agree to this little beggar's deal? He imagined that after he followed the beggar to the mountain, he'd be facing some ferocious spiritual beasts while the beggar kept crying at the side. Sighing, Zhuofan traveled with the beggar through a dark forest. After a long time they found a narrow tunnel next to a hidden stream. This is it. The beggar forced himself to stop sobbing, but his body still shivered. When I was little, I used to play with my dad and brothers in these woods. Zhuofan lifted an eyebrow as he inspected the cave and the surroundings. It was such a remote place that only a native would know of. He guessed that the little beggar must have stumbled upon this cave when he was playing with his brothers, or the Hell Valley would have sealed it by now if they knew of it. All right, Xiao Ning. Go in first, I'll be right behind you. Zhuofan shouted as he pushed the little beggar in. He didn't think this place held a trap, but his years and years of experience still showed his cautious nature. The little beggar was aware of the meaning and rolled his eyes in anger, and stooped to go in. Suddenly a loud shout was heard. Ninger, stop! Whoosh! With the sound of the wind, a large figure blocked the two's path. The man looked like he was in his 40s and wore luxurious clothing over his tall and sturdy body. His pair of large eyes flashed with the explosive power of an expert. Peak bone tempering expert. Zhuofan frowned and his hands tightened. Are you the clan head of the Shui clan, Shui Wanlong? Good eyes. Shui Wanlong praised. Were you the one who harmed my eldest son, Shui Gang? Indeed, Zhuofan smiled. He wanted to take one of my people. Sparing him was already kind enough. What, yours? Shui Wanlong was shocked and turned to the little beggar. The little beggar blushed as he hid behind Zhuofan. Shui Wanlong's expression turned weird. Dad! Just then a yell was heard. A youth in white landed next to Shui Wanlong. Ha ha ha, I knew Ninger would be hiding here. Dad, let me help you take him back. The youth looked thrilled. He disregarded Zhuofan and flew to the little beggar. Bastard, this kid is way too cocky, treating me like air. Zhuofan squinted and secretly cursed. When the youth was close to him, he struck with a red palm. The youth felt his energy turn sluggish and his blood vessels rupture. In this moment of deadly crisis, Zhuofan struck like lightning and grabbed his neck. What are you doing? Shui Wanlong roared. He didn't think his son would be caught so easily. Oh, to be honest, he saw Zhuofan as a fifth-layer qi condensation cultivator, and was still skeptical of how he hurt his eldest son and guards. But now he knew. Compared to the kids he raised in his clan with all his heart, Zhuofan was akin to a savage beast bathed in blood. He was weaker, but his timing was perfect and his methods vicious. Before Zhuofan, his two sons were nothing more than greenhouse flowers. With a snicker, Zhuofan raised the youth up high, a fifth-layer qi condensation cultivator. He must be your second son, Shui Lin, right? Release him now, or you won't make it out alive. Shui Wanlong roared in anger. Sneering, Zhuofan shook his head. If I do as you say, you'd make sure I'm dead even more. Clan head Shui, no matter what grievances Xiao Ning has with you, he is my person. I only hope you will give up at this point. Don't. Zhuofan's hand squeezed and Shui Lin gasped with his tongue out. And you will have your son as a corpse. No. The little beggar shouted before Shui Wanlong could reply, grabbing Zhuofan's arm and begging with his eyes. Zhuofan was stunned. This beggar must have a screw loose. Why does he want to leave his enemies alive? Shui Wanlong watched them with a complicated gaze, but soon came to a decision and calmed down. This in turn startled Zhuofan. Kid, what is your name? Shui Wanlong asked. Zhuofan smiled. I am alone and am not afraid of your revenge. Nor am I afraid of telling you my name. It's Zhuofan. All right, Zhuofan. You want to protect him no matter what? Shui Wanlong pointed at the little beggar with a solemn look. Zhuofan snorted. He is mine, so of course I will. Good, then let's make a bet. You let my son go and take 10 hits from me. If you win, I will no longer care about him. What do you say? Squinting, Zhuo Fan considered Xue Wanlong's bet, then showed his manic grin as he threw Xue Lin away. Aren't you afraid I will break my word? Xue Wanlong's eyes flashed. Zhuo Fan sneered, if I want to kill him, you won't be able to stop me. Big words. Xue Wanlong was angry again. Here are my 10 moves. He charged with his peak bone tempering power on display. But Zhuo Fan didn't seem to feel any discomfort, standing there calmly. Xue Wanlong's brow trembled as he secretly praised Zhuo Fan. But before he reached Zhuo Fan, the latter also charged. This puzzled him greatly. Even if this kid is a seasoned fighter, he can't fend off a bone-tempering expert. So why? He saw Zhuo Fan's hand shine and Savage Moon appear. Basked in a silver glow, Zhuo Fan sped up and was before Xue Wanlong in an instant, ready to attack. Third-grade demonic treasure. Xue Wanlong was shocked and turned to the side in an attempt to dodge. But a red light darted out from Zhuo Fan, aimed at Xue Wanlong. Got you. Zhuo Fan grinned with killing intent. But just as Blood Infant was about to enter Xue Wanlong, it was repelled. As it bounced off, Zhuo Fan felt his blood stirring from his connection with it. His hand moved and he slashed with Savage Moon. The silver light trailed past Xue Wanlong's face. When both of them stopped, Zhuo Fan was standing in Xue Wanlong's original place with a solemn look. Just now he had planned to take Xue Wanlong's life in one hit, by using Blood Infant and Savage Moon. But unexpectedly, Blood Infant bounced off and the recoil veered his attack. He turned back to see Xue Wanlong's chest flash, and shouted, second-grade defensive demonic treasure. His heart grew heavy having found out the reason. Against such a defensive demonic treasure, his chi condensation Blood Infant was useless. He could only rely on Savage Moon in this battle. As Zhuo Fan felt gloomy about the upcoming fight, Xue Wanlong's jaw dropped in shock. He didn't foresee that a fifth-layer chi condensation kid would have such terrifying power. If he was a moment too late, his head would have been sent flying right now. Recalling his bet with Zhuo Fan, he felt a cold shiver run down his spine. Blast it, as the matter stands, it'll be good if I can at least keep my head after 10 moves. He then looked at the chain mail on his chest and sighed. Thanks to his father warning him that the man who took Ninger might have been an expert, he wore this armor. He was unclear as to what was Blood Infant's use, but he knew death wouldn't be far away once it got into his body. Then he turned to Zhuo Fan, who was looking at him as if to devour him, and broke out in cold sweat. This was his first time meeting such a dreadful opponent. Even more so when this opponent was in the 5th layer of chi condensation. Damn it! Is this kid a monster? Gnashing his teeth, Xue Wanlong braced himself for what's to come. Chapter 56 Mystifying Phantom Step. Chapter 56 Mystifying Phantom Step. Zhuo Fan stared at Xue Wanlong, thinking hard for a way to finish his enemy. Xue Wanlong was the same, yet his eyes seemed lost. He saw no hesitation from Zhuo Fan, but a naked taunt instead. This was not how a chi condensation cultivator was supposed to stare at a bone-tempering expert. It was more akin to a savage beast staring down its prey, and he didn't like it one bit. Being stared down by someone weaker than me feels like I've lost all respect. He decided to rush for an attack and strike awe in this kid. But Zhuo Fan got ahead of him and ran for him first. Second move. Zhuo Fan's sudden action startled him, but soon recalled who he was. Even if it was against a punk, he wasn't about to make a fool of himself. Moreover, only Savage Moon was a threat to him. If he paid attention to it, he'd be fine. It would be no problem lasting 10 moves. If his thoughts were known to others, it would leave them speechless. In a fight between peak bone-tempering expert and a chi condensation kid, the former who thought this was but a cat-and-mouse game was now thinking how to survive 10 moves. Who the hell was strong and who was weak then? And more importantly, who in the hell told him to make a 10 moves bet in the first place? But he had no time to mind such trifles as Zhuo Fan had turned into a silver light. Seeing the silver light approach him, Xue Wanlong exploded with power and retreated. It could be said that he was being wary of Savage Moon, but he was even more afraid that he would end up making an embarrassing scene. Lin, who was thrown down, coughed twice then stared in shock. Dad, you were the one who brought up the 10 moves bet. Not the other way around. Wanlong's face froze, itching to run over and kick his son's rear real good. Can you be even more oblivious? This kid's toy is sharp and you want me to play around with death? Lin was ignorant of his dad's struggle and kept cheering. But Wanlong's face was getting more and more ashen. Fan didn't even get to touch Wanlong's clothes in the first 5 moves. But he saw through Wanlong's intention and became bold. With a manic grin, Fan declared, 6th move. He sped up for another attack while Wanlong was prepared to dodge. But this time Fan stepped lightly and turned into 3 figures, surrounding Wanlong. 3 silver lights approached Wanlong in a threatening manner from different directions. Wanlong was startled, but as a peak bone tempering expert, he didn't lose his calm. He kicked the ground and made it explode. The force helped him dodge backwards, almost enough to escape the encirclement. But Fan sneered and stepped again. Whoosh! The images dissipated. However, Fan appeared from behind Wanlong and cut past his ear. Low spirit ranked martial art. Mystifying phantom step. The two stopped again with Fan standing 3 meters away from his opponent with a smile. Wanlong stood there watching a strand of black hair floating before him. I lost. He couldn't believe it. What was meant to be a test for the kid ended with his complete loss in the 6th move. He didn't send Fan behind him, but since Fan could cut his hair just as well, it could have been his head. In other words, Fan was going easy on him. Wanlong swallowed dryly. He was going all out from the 2nd move. But even so, impossible. The beggar and Lin yelled at the same time. They found it hard to accept that such a powerful expert lost to their peer. Dad, you must have gone easy on purpose, right? Lin ran next to Wanlong with expectation in his eyes. But Wanlong didn't comment. Fan watched them coldly. Of course clan head went easy. His first move was just a test, without killing intent. If Dad hadn't gone easy, you'd be dead. Lin was grasping for straws here when he stuck out his chin in derision. But Fan just sneered, terribly sorry your dad didn't go all out. But if he had, his head would have been lying on the ground by now. Fan wasn't saying to scare people. Although his first attempt with Blood Infant failed, it only meant that he lost the initiative completely. And that didn't equal losing his chance to kill Wanlong. A bone-tempering expert lacks speed in comparison to a profound heaven expert. With Savage Moon's assist, Fan's speed matched a bone-tempering expert. So he still had a chance with his speed. What was left then was to deliver a killing blow at the perfect timing. If Fan was in the 4th layer of chi condensation, it would have been impossible. But in the 5th layer he could use spirit-ranked martial arts. And the first one he trained was mystifying phantom step. This was not your average martial art, but one coming from 9 Serenity's secret records. A rare martial art that made use of an array's advantage. The phantom part wasn't important, but it was crucial to bait the opponent. The true killing move came from the mystified path. He drew his opponent in. With this martial art, Fan could teleport anywhere within a short range. During their fight, the phantoms took all of Wanlong's attention and made him ignore the sudden appearance of Fan behind him. If Fan had sensed any killing intent in their fight, he would have chopped Wanlong's head off. Wanlong was more than clear on this and accepted his defeat. Fan, with a sigh, Wanlong stared at him solemnly. You're the most reliable youth I've ever seen. I will leave Ninger with you. Don't fail him. Fan was puzzled. What does he mean by that? But Wanlong didn't explain and hugged the little beggar. Ninger, go and don't return. Follow your dreams. Dad! The little beggar cried rivers. Fan watched in shock. Dad? When did Wanlong have a 3rd son? But soon he yelled, hold on, your 3rd young miss, Xueningsiang. Rolling his eyes, Wanlong patted Fan's shoulder. Kid, I thought you were smart, but you found this out only now. Anyway, you said it yourself that she is yours, so I am leaving her in your care. If I find out that you mistreated my daughter in any way, I will wring your life from your body. No way. What is going on here? Zhuofan was slack-jawed. All this time he'd been fighting the little beggar's father, and was so close to ending her entire family. It's obvious now why she always glared at me with such hatred. Sighing, Xue Wanlong took one last look at his tearing daughter and left with Xue Lin. After going some distance, Xue Lin said, "Dad, if we don't get Ninger back, how do we explain it to Hell Valley?" "Quiet, I have a way." Xuaningxiang. Zhuofan stepped before the little beggar and tossed her cap. Jet-black silky hair cascaded. The little beggar, who was still lost in tears as she watched her father leave, yelped when this happened and hurriedly held her head. She faced him with a blushed face but didn't meet his eyes. "Miss Ning, what's your game? Here I was fighting with your father thinking of helping you vent your anger, but, in fact, it was for nothing." Xuaningxiang took 2 steps back, muttering as she looked at his angry face, "Brother Zhua, don't be angry. I only want to leave the city while you want to go to All Beast Mountain Range. We'll each get what we want." Zhuofan was startled. Then again, she's right. As long as I get what I want, who cares if they're a family of archenemies? Each gets what he wants. This Missy speaks reason. Will I, demonic emperor, get angry because she lied to me? Anyway, this has nothing to do with me. But then Zhuofan was startled once again. Since when have I been so emotional? With a frown, Zhuofan recalled everything that happened since his rebirth. He then realized that being in contact with the Luo clan over the past months made him show consideration to the people around him, even without his knowledge. This wasn't how a demonic cultivator acted at all. Damn it, I don't need these useless feelings. I have to change. I have to. Zhuofan reminded himself again and again. His face then turned serene, void of any emotion. Xuaningxiang, let's go. Zhuofan pointed at the cave and said in a cold tone, "Once I'm done with All Beast Mountain Range, I will take you out. At that time our deal is done." Xuaningxiang looked long at him then nodded. Zhuofan's behavior changed way too fast, as if he was a different person. To begin with, Zhuofan wasn't a good man in her mind, but now he became neither good nor bad, but cold and unfeeling. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Chapter 57 Golden Spring Pool. Chapter 57 Golden Spring Pool. All Beast Mountain Range, deep in the forest. In a remote thicket, a rabbit was chewing on tender juicy grass. Suddenly, the rabbit straightened its ears and bolted. A moment later, a black hand extended out from the ground, followed by the slow crawl of the little beggar. But as she was crawling, she was flung out with a loud sound, as if a palm had slapped her. "Get out already." Zhuofan scowled and came out after the beggar flew. He was just as filthy as the beggar and looked as if he had crawled through a cramped coal mine. The tunnel was winding and almost half a mile long. It was also damp and smelled of rot. He couldn't understand for the life of him what was so great about playing in this place as kids. Xuaningxiang got on her feet, rubbed her rear and then glared at him. "You're the worst. I show you the way and this is my thanks?" "Yes, I'm a scoundrel." Zhuofan didn't argue with her and had his eyes peeled, scanning the surrounding as he heard the seldom roar of spiritual beasts. He now knew that this was indeed All Beast Mountain Range. Looking at his filthy appearance, he shook his head and turned to Xuaningxiang. "Hey, is there any river nearby?" Rolling her eyes, Xuaningxiang began walking. "Follow me." Zhuofan smiled and followed her. 15 minutes later, the sound of water reached their ears. He perked up and sped. His eyes were soon rewarded with the sight of a wide river flowing with clear water and small fishes. With a shout, Zhuofan leapt in despite a female's presence. His clothes then flew out. Xuaningxiang whipped her body around in shame and snapped, "You rogue, what are you doing? What do you think bathing?" Zhuofan snorted as he bathed with no regard to her presence. "I'll get out after I finish. Do what you want. If you wish, we can bathe together, I don't mind." "Damn you, who wants to bathe with you?" Xuaningxiang didn't turn around, only mumbled with irritation, "Shameless." Zhuofan heard her loud and clear though. If demonic cultivators cared about reputation, what are righteous cultivators then? A quarter of an hour later, Zhuofan came out of the river and put on a new robe from his ring. He patted Xue Ningxiang's shoulder. Let's go. Where is the diamond sand going to appear? Xue Ningxiang was a bit nervous seeing Zhuo Fan wanted to leave. She stood there in hesitation and was too embarrassed to speak. Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow. What? Show the way. Didn't we have a deal? But. Xue Ningxiang muttered shyly, I haven't washed yet. Zhuo Fan's eyebrow twitched and he exposed an enigmatic smile. I told you to wash but you refused. Since you haven't, then that's that. I won't avoid you either way. But. Xue Ningxiang was even more embarrassed now. She put on a disguise to run away from home. But she was a girl and girls loved beauty, so how could she allow herself to stay dirty? Zhuo Fan knew this too, but he was just teasing the hell out of her. Who told her to deceive me? Xue Ningxiang was swaying from one foot to the other but didn't speak. But when she caught Zhuo Fan's faint smile, she knew he was teasing her. Pissed, she threw her hat in his face and walked to the river. But after a few steps, she turned to warn Zhuo Fan, we better not peek. Zhuo Fan mocked as he left. I'm not interested in unripe fruits. Unripe? Xue Ningxiang was startled. Then looked down at her chest and pushed it out unconvinced. Humph, where am I unripe? But Zhuo Fan had already disappeared among the trees. Xue Ningxiang pouted and returned to the river with a gloomy heart. Half an hour later, Zhuo Fan was laying carefree on a bush, holding a straw in his mouth and contemplating his next course of action. The bushes around him moved at that moment and Zhuo Fan looked over with a smile. Oh, you're finally done. Little miss, can we go now? Why, yeah. With a shy reply, the bushes were pushed aside. A white-clothed delicate girl slowly walked out. She wasn't gorgeous, but she had a lively air about her. She was like a bouquet of fresh and pure flowers. Even Zhuo Fan was startled by her image. He didn't think that the dirty little beggar from before would transform into a gentle swan. Xue Ningxiang reddened a bit from his constant staring. She coughed and Zhuo Fan smiled embarrassingly. Lady Xue, please lead the way. Changing his mannerism after encountering a belle, Zhuo Fan started to despise himself a bit. Since when have I become so shameless? Yet the end result was that he found it refreshing walking side by side with a belle. 2 hours later, Xue Ningxiang brought him to a hilltop. Zhuo Fan was puzzled. Since the diamond sand is coming out, there should be plenty of people around. Why is it deserted? Xue Ningxiang shook her head and rolled her eyes. Brother Zhuo, I thought you were smart. How come you are so stupid all of a sudden? Zhuo Fan watched her skeptically. If we go in right now, we will be caught. That is why I led you here. Xue Ningxiang pulled Zhuo Fan's hand and went higher up the hill and pointed. That is the place where the diamond sand will erupt. Looking over, Zhuo Fan saw many figures, 50 in number, defending a pond. The pond seemed to be connected to a hot spring as it was bubbling. In the center, on a stone rising from the water, sat a gray-robed white-haired elder with his eyes closed. The air was warm around him, but the steam from the hot spring vanished the closer it got to him. So much so that not even his hair was wet. Such deep cultivation. Is he a profound heaven expert? Zhuo Fan frowned in panic. Suddenly, that elder snapped his eyes open and looked in Zhuo Fan's direction. His eyes were sharp and landed like lightning on his position. Get down! Zhuo Fan pulled Xue Ningxiang to lie on a rock as cold sweat ran all over his body. Such a sharp instinct. He is a profound heaven expert for sure. Correct. Xue Ningxiang nodded. He is Hell Valley's elder overseeing Blue Expanse City for the past dozen years. Last month he found that the Golden Spring Pool released a lot of diamond sand and has stood watch here ever since. The 50 people around him are also bone tempering experts. Zhuo Fan nodded. Before diamond sand erupted, it would cause the flowing gold tide. But the flowing gold tide would only contain trace amounts of diamond sand. But 3 months from then the diamond sand would erupt for sure. To get all the diamond sand before others, they placed guards. But who is to say the diamond sand would erupt from here? Zhuo Fan frowned as he thought. With his power he had no hope of stealing the diamond sand unless... His eyes flashed and pulled Xue Ningxiang off the hilltop. What, you have a way? Seeing Zhuo Fan confident, Xue Ningxiang was startled. She was already shocked that he could beat her family. But could he also have the power to win against a profound heaven cultivator and a team of bone tempering experts? Zhuofan shook his head. If you can't beat them, outwit them. Let's go, I want you to find a little pet for me. Xuaningxiang was puzzled. In the golden spring pool, the elder's eyes were filled with confusion. Did I sensed wrongly? At the same time in Blue Expanse City, Xue Wanlong took Xue Lin's dirty figure home. In the main hall of the Xue clan sat a wizened old man in the seat of honor, watching the two. Then he suddenly jumped to his feet. How was it? Did you bring Ninger? Did you deal with the culprit that harmed Ganger? Sighing, Xue Wanlong shook his head. Dad, I let them go. That kid is not bad, so I entrusted Ninger to him. As for him injuring Ganger, he did not know any better. As long as he takes care of Ninger, I do not mind it. What, that man is Ninger's? The old man spouted in shock. Nodding, Xue Wanlong said, that kid said Ninger was his. Ninger was also willing, so we can assume so. Fool. The old man slapped the table with a howl. Wanlong, no matter who the kid is, even if you disregard what he did to Ganger, Ninger can never ever be taken away. You know that if she leaves our Xue clan. Even though he was angry, his eyes revealed sadness. Xue Wanlong looked at his father with firm eyes as he said, Dad, let Ninger go. I will take full responsibility. You take shit. Can you keep the young and old safe? The old man roared. Wanlong, I know you love your daughter, but you think I don't? But Xue clan. Sighing, the old man's face hardened. Where did they go? Xue Wanlong was vexed, but still spoke as he closed his eyes. All Beast Mountain Range. Whoosh! In an instant, the old man vanished. Chapter 58 Mystery Guy. Chapter 58 Mystery Guy. Zhuofan and Xuaningxiang were searching through bushes in All Beast Mountain Range. Xuaningxiang was unsettled, not knowing where he was going with this. Zhuofan suddenly shouted in glee and held out something dirty. Found it? Xuaningxiang blinked in curiosity at the thing. What is it? What does it do? Sweet potato. Zhuofan gave a vague smile and continued. The one thing that first-level spiritual beast burrowing mouse likes the most. Xuaningxiang's eyes flashed and yelled. Great plan, you want to use a burrowing mouse to make a tunnel and steal the diamond sand. The burrowing mouse didn't know how to fight, and even a foundation establishment cultivator could capture it easily. But its burrowing skill was second to none. Just one of these critters could dig through a 1,000-mile-long mountain range in an hour. Zhuofan didn't reply and showed a faint smile. Xuaningxiang felt even more suspicious now. No one seemed to be able to unravel the insidious mind of Zhuofan. A moment later, Zhuofan took Xuaningxiang far away from the golden spring pool and made a fire in which he threw the sweet potato. Soon, a sweet aroma wafted for 100 miles. Many spiritual beasts raised their heads and began searching for the source. Zhuofan took Xuaningxiang to lay in ambush close by, their eyes fixed on the fire. The bushes rustled and many spiritual beasts, big and small, approached the fire. They prodded the black lumps in the fire, wanting to find out from where the sweet smell came from, to no avail. Zhuofan secretly laughed and smiled at Xuaningxiang. In fact, the two took the cooked sweet potato long ago. They only left it inside enough to release its sweet smell and attract the burrowing mouse. If not, the other spiritual beasts would have taken it away and ruined their plan. More and more spiritual beasts came and searched, but found nothing. However, the soil next to the fire moved as it bulged outwards to no more than a fist in size. Zhuofan stood up slowly and got ready. Suddenly, the bulge of dirt broke away. A creature with a black mouth on its tiny head came out. It roamed around the fire a few times and sniffed. Now! Zhuofan screamed in his mind as he shot for the fire. The spiritual beasts which gathered around the fire, were only at first and second level, ran away at the sudden noise. Only the burrowing mouse was oblivious to what was happening, but its intuition as a spiritual beast gave it a bit of insight that danger was looming. It immediately started moving its claw, wanting to burrow. But it was too late. Zhuofan already flashed before it and grabbed its tail. The burrowing mouse struggled for its life in panic. But there was no escape from the demonic palm of Zhuofan. Hee hee buddy, you wanna run? With a manic grin, Zhuofan grabbed the critter's frail body and squeezed. It screeched in pain and flailed its claws. Xuaningxiang couldn't take it anymore and took the poor thing close to her chest. She patted it and threw Zhuofan an evil eye. How can you be so cruel? What if you hurt it? Humph, spiritual beasts don't get bruised easily. Zhuofan snorted, we need to hurry and tame it, or we won't get another chance. But you don't need to be such a boor about it. My clan had raised some small spiritual beasts before, and even if they were wild they still listened to me. Xuaningxiang comforted the poor critter with a sweet smile. Isn't that right, little one? The burrowing mouse seemed to understand and nodded, then glared at Zhuofan. Curses, buddy, you're pushing it here. Zhuofan raged inside, itching to get his hand on the prick. But it was impossible, not with Xuaningxiang guarding it like a tigress. But then an idea struck him and his manic grin returned. The burrowing mouse shivered at the sight of him and hid in Xuaningxiang's chest. What are you trying to do? Xuaningxiang warned Zhuofan as she stepped back. His face flipped to a gentle smile as a gourd appeared on his palm. It's all right. I won't harm the little one. I only wanted to swallow something. Then he took out a blood-red worm from the gourd. It was the demonic creature he had raised with great care, frigid pool bloodworm. Any creature that ingested it would have no choice but to listen to his commands or the blood curse would claim their lives. If not for time being an issue, he wouldn't have wanted to waste a bloodworm on a first-level spiritual beast. What is that? So disgusting. Xuaningxiang frowned and took another step back. The burrowing mouse also sensed the danger and hid in her chest. Zhuofan was dead serious. We have two ways we can tame the little guy fast. Either let me train it for a day or he eats this. Xuaningxiang saw Zhuofan's face and she knew if she refused, he'd use force. Helpless, Xuaningxiang took the burrowing mouse out and patted its head. Little one, it's better if you eat it. Although it's a tad disgusting, it's better than landing in that guy's hands. Xuaningxiang said as she walked towards Zhuofan. With a sinister smile, Zhuofan inched the bloodworm close to the burrowing mouse's mouth. The critter struggled, but it was of no use. The bloodworm was about to enter its mouth. At that moment, however, a whoosh was heard. Zhuofan pushed Xuaningxiang away as he moved back himself. Watch out! A cold light passed between them. The freezing ray almost touched Zhuofan's fingers as it cut the wiggling bloodworm clean in half. He was aware of the killing intent the ray contained. Zhuofan turned to see a tall youth not 10 meters away. He looked to be 20 years old and had a handsome visage. His eyes flashed with coldness, like a pair of sharp blades, at the two of them. The burrowing mouse shrieked a few times and ran from Xuaningxiang's hands and climbed up his body to his shoulder. It has a master. Zhuofan scowled. The youth snorted at the two. You both got some nerve eyeing my spirit animal. Sorry, it wasn't on purpose. Zhuofan stopped Xuaningxiang's explanation with a wave and pushed her behind him. It doesn't matter if it has a master or not. We need it today. Ha ha ha, big words. The youth sneered. One insect is in the 5th layer of qi condensation, while the other in the 4th. Yet you still want to tame what is mine? Fine, guess I will have to end you. Humph, we will see about that. Sneering, Zhuofan rushed at the youth as Savage Moon flashed in his hand. 3rd grade demonic treasure. Raising an eyebrow, the youth lost the contempt he had before. This demonic treasure was a threat to his life, and in all his teachings he received, one needed to go all out regardless of the enemy. His eyes gleamed as he dashed at Zhuofan. His hand flashed and it now held a long sword. In an instant the world seemed to freeze over. The sky and the earth seemed to vanish as flickering lights spewed from the sword. Empty net. Whoosh! Zhuofan suddenly slowed down amid his charge. Even his surroundings were sluggish while the only thing unaffected was the long sword. Profound ranked martial art, 7th layer of bone tempering stage, and 4th grade spiritual weapon. Squinting, Zhuofan started to take this seriously. This youth wasn't average. It was hard enough reaching such cultivation at his age, but he had also grasped a profound ranked martial art and used a 4th grade spiritual weapon. In the Tianyu Empire, rare were those like him even in the 7 noble houses. And exactly that was the answer. This man could be a core disciple of the 7 noble houses, perhaps even an inheritor. Today Zhuofan offended him and tomorrow trouble would come knocking. The only choice was to kill him. In an instant, Zhuo Fan's eyes exploded with killing intent. The youth was startled. Am I not the one holding the advantage? Why is this kid releasing such thick killing intent? Does he think he can actually kill me? The next moment, however, Zhuo Fan's action left him pale. Despite knowing that he was slowed down, Zhuo Fan only took a step and turned into 5 images of himself. Sneering, the youth grinned. Think you can act tough with such a base-level killing move? The youth's sword turned into 5 and struck each figure down. But at that moment, Zhuo Fan's voice came from behind him. Nice sword skill. Too bad you met me. The youth jumped in fright. When did he get behind me? In this moment of imminent danger, he stabbed backwards. The sword art's aim was perfect, targeting Zhuo Fan's chest. Zhuo Fan looked down calmly with slight praise in his heart. Too bad it's over. Whoosh! Zhuo Fan ignored the sword going for his chest and slashed at the youth's waist. If this continued, it would end with Zhuo Fan being gravely wounded and the youth dead. A wound for a kill, worth it. Chapter 59 Sword Marquis Abode of the 7 Noble Houses. Chapter 59 Sword Marquis Abode of the 7 Noble Houses. Ding! Zhuo Fan slashed with full power, but a metal screech echoed and Savage Moon bounced back. He squinted as his heart was in a panic. This punk has a spiritual armor besides the spiritual weapon. But the timing didn't even let him think. The youth's sword was getting dangerously close to his chest. In this wound for a kill scenario, his opponent would come unharmed while he would be too wounded to continue fighting. Damn it, I miscalculated this time. Zhuo Fan secretly cursed and used the Savage Moon's rebound to save himself. Not for the life of him did he think this freakin' punk to be this rich. Even an elder from Hell Valley had a single demonic treasure at best. But this punk here was wielding one while wearing another. Who the hell is he? Bam! With no more time to think, Zhuo Fan's Savage Moon and the golden sword struck each other. With a loud sound, Zhuo Fan flew back due to the force. The blood in his chest flowed erratically and forced him to spew blood. He hit the dirt and the Savage Moon clanked next to him in 2. His brow shivered as he turned solemn. He has a 4th-grade spiritual armor on him that my blood infant can't get through. The only way to hurt him was with Savage Moon. But Savage Moon is now in pieces. This was the first time since his rebirth that Zhuo Fan met such a danger to his life. The youth was in the 7th layer of bone tempering stage, had a spiritual weapon, had a spiritual armor, and even profound ranked martial arts. I can't punch through his defense and I can only take a beating. But the worst part was the youth used all his power against someone weaker. Everyone was afraid of the serious types. This will make it even harder for him to make any mistakes for me to exploit. How do I fight him? Zhuo Fan stared down the figure while his forehead ran cold with sweat. Yet who'd have known that the youth's mental state mirrored his, maybe even more terrified. The youth was known as a genius among geniuses in his clan. He learned the sword all his life and never lost. But against Zhuo Fan, who was weaker, he was one move away from dying even when he exerted his all. If not for the spiritual armor, he'd be dead. Dead from a man weaker than him by a stage. He just couldn't get over this. He was an exceptional genius who could defeat a peak bone tempering expert in a single move. He was the clan's successor, how could? The youth's brow was sweating bullets and gnashed his teeth at Zhuo Fan. Brother? What is your name? Zhuo Fan was startled and saw the change in the youth's eyes. Guessing he wouldn't keep on wanting to kill them, he replied. Zhuo Fan? I'll remember you. We'll finish this the next time we meet. That youth sheathed his sword, took his burrowing mouse and was about to leave. Zhuo Fan rushed to say, wait. The youth stopped. What is it? Dare I ask, brother? Are you also here for the diamond sand? The youth stared at Zhuo Fan. What if I am, what if I'm not? Zhuo Fan smiled. If not, then let's part ways. If you want to work together? Work together? The youth frowned and took a long look at the two. How? Not even the 3 of us are enough to steal 1 speck of diamond sand. Not long back, this youth viewed them as nothing more than insects, but his words just now showed his respect for Zhuo Fan's strength as someone equal to him. Zhuo Fan grinned and sighed. We can negotiate like this. Brother has a burrowing mouse, So you plan to avoid fighting them? The youth smiled. So we had the same idea. I see why you wanted this guy. But this burrowing mouse is mine. What can you bring if we team up? The correct way of using the burrowing mouse. Zhuofan continued with a smile. How is brother going to use it to get the diamond sand? The youth squinted and replied with another question. How about you? Dig a tunnel, wait for the diamond sand to erupt, and we steal some. Xuaningxiang spoke out of turn. But her response only earned the laughter of the two until her face went red. She glared. Why are you laughing? Am I wrong? The youth shook his head. Lady, they have a profound heaven expert, so how could it work? You'll be caught before you even make a move. Zhuofan nodded. In any case, my silly sister raised an option we definitely must avoid. What about you? Xuaningxiang glared at Zhuofan for making fun of her, but her face became red again for some other reason. The youth spoke simply. Easy, the diamond sand is pushed by the deep earth and comes out as a spring. I will have the burrowing mouse dig a small tunnel from the main course to direct a part of the diamond sand to me. Zhuofan clapped and Xuaningxiang praised the brilliance of it. Great plan. The youth smiled with pride, but Zhuofan shook his head. If I were you, this would also be the best plan. The youth frowned. You have a better way then. Ha ha, of course. Why would I work with you if I didn't? Zhuofan smiled as he continued. Your plan won't earn you even 1,000th. Since there are so many types of earth layers beneath us, the diamond sand will be stuck along the way, and you will get even less. What's your idea then? The youth stared at him. With a mysterious smile, Zhuofan stuck out his chin. If brother believes me, I can get all of it, leaving nothing to Hell Valley. We will later split it evenly. What do you say? How can that be? The youth watched them in shock, but Zhuofan was confident. My skill is making impossible possible. This got the youth to recall Zhuofan's close call in killing him and nodded. Fine, I believe you. How do we do it? Splendid. Zhuofan laughed. We are now partners. How should I address brother? Xietanyang. The youth spoke loud and clear. Zhuofan frowned. Xie. You mean you're from the 7 noble houses, Sword Marquis' abode? Waving his hand, Xietanyang smiled vaguely. But they all figured out even if Zhuofan didn't get to finish. Xuaningxiang watched the youth for a long time in shock. Second-rate clans like the Shui clan relied on the protection of the 7 noble houses. Just that she never got to leave Blue Expanse City, not once in her life, and the only 7 noble houses people she saw were from Hell Valley. Oh, brother Zhua, what house do you come from that you're so amazing? Xuaningxiang couldn't help but wonder as Zhuofan was so young, and yet no less powerful than Xietianyang. In fact, Zhuofan could have struck this disciple of Sword Marquis' abode dead if not for the spiritual armor. Thus, Zhuofan had to be from a special background. Xietianyang also turned to Zhuofan with eager eyes. He wanted to know just which house gave birth to such a monster. Zhuofan shook his head with a smile. I'm no one important. Just a small steward in the Luo clan of Windgaze City. Steward? Luo clan. The two were shocked. Luo clan? Never heard of it. Ha ha ha. It's quite normal for you to not know. Luo clan is just a third-rate clan. Zhuofan smiled. This time, both of them eyed him with suspicion. They would never believe that a trifling clan could raise such an expert. Not even the imperial family, and the 7 houses had many like him. Brother, if what you said is true, you are welcome to join Sword Marquis' abode. Xietianyang's eyes shined as he patted Zhuofan's shoulder. It mattered little if Zhuofan was being honest. He was an unpolished gem nonetheless. With Zhuofan joining the Sword Marquis' abode, the Luo clan would one day be a second-rate clan, maybe even a peak second-rate with the house's assistance. The Sword Marquis' abode would at that time grow in power even more. For one of the 7 noble houses to personally ask for a clan to sign an agreement with them would stir all other small clans into crying if they found out. But Zhuofan only disdained this act. Knowing where Xietianyang was going with this, Zhuofan smiled. You're late. I already signed an alliance agreement with Veiled Dragon Pavilion. But if Sword Marquis' abode wants to sign a similar agreement, I'd be happy to oblige. What? Zhuofan just dropped a bomb that shocked the other two to their cores. Alliance agreement? Veiled Dragon Pavilion. Why would Veiled Dragon Pavilion do this for a small clan? Chapter 60,000-mile-long array. Chapter 60,000-mile-long array. Xuaningxiang and Xie Tianyang took long skeptical looks at Zhuo Fan. From Zhuo Fan's reaction, it could be said he spoke the truth. But this news was too outrageous, even worse than if the heaven and earth switched places. The 7 noble houses could stand shoulder to shoulder with the imperial family. If they discovered a clan with great potential, signing a vassal agreement was more appropriate. But an alliance agreement only ever happened between the 7 noble houses. Yet this gap in power between the house and the clan breached by an alliance agreement made it look like the emperor went out to a beggar and called him brother. Such an act would make them, the 7 houses and the emperor, look like charitable folks. But this was fundamentally impossible. Just how did Zhuo Fan do it? Xie Tianyang watched Zhuo Fan closely but shook his head in the end. Brother, it's fine if you don't want to say it. But do you have to lie to us so openly? Xuaningxiang rolled her eyes while whining. Brother Zhuo, we told you everything about us, while you still keep your secret. This is not proper. Zhuo Fan shook his head. The truth was taken as lies by others and he did not know how to respond. All right, Brother Zhuo, let's forget it. We'll be going our separate ways when this is over anyway, with little chance of meeting again. There's no need to know everything about each other. Then Xie Tianyang clapped. We had better listen to Brother Zhuo's plan. Zhuo Fan nodded with a smile. He liked Xie Tianyang's attitude a lot. There was no eternal enemies and friends in the world, only benefits. They were friends now, thanks to a mutual goal, but tomorrow they might be on opposite sides. There was no need to know too much about each other. Quite the contrary, it would be best to hide one's secret and protect one's identity. Only Xuaningxiang pouted. Since we were brought together by fate, why can't we be friends? Zhuo Fan and Xie Tianyang just smiled. Zhuo Fan then retrieved a piece of paper from his ring and began to write on it. 15 minutes later, a strange design adorned it. Xuaningxiang was looking puzzled, while Xie Tianyang was feeling more and more astonished with each brushwork. This? Xie Tianyang watched the finished design in shock. A first-grade array. But I've never seen this one in my life, and I've seen my fair share. Zhuo Fan secretly nodded. Xie Tianyang was from the 7 houses, and just like Long Kuei, he had learned of arrays from a young age. But few parts of this array were from an ancient era and not seen today. Thus, he could not understand the array completely. Xie Tianyang studied the design for a long time, then looked at Zhuo Fan with a firm gaze. You're from the 7 houses? No, maybe even imperial. He wasn't certain because the more he got to know Zhuo Fan, the more Zhuo Fan's talent scared him, so much that he couldn't ascertain which house Zhuo Fan belonged to. He even felt the 7 houses couldn't have raised such a monstrous talent. Then the only one above the houses was the imperial family. Zhuo Fan shook his head. I already said it. It's up to you to believe or not, but now we're working together. Xie Tianyang gave a strained nod. Follow me. Zhuo Fan took out a map and walked ahead with the other 2 close behind. After half a day, Zhuo Fan reached a stream. He gave the area a once-over and nodded. Xuaningxiang and Xie Tianyang were filled with curiosity. This place was even farther away from the Golden Spring Pool, and near the border to the second area in the All-Beast Mountain Range. All-Beast Mountain Range was split into 3 areas based on how dangerous the spiritual beasts were. The first area was the safest, with only first and second level spiritual beasts roaming around, and the seldom third level. These were suited for foundation establishment and chi condensation cultivators to catch as spirit animals, and the Golden Spring Pool was in this area. The second area was the treasure hunting area, a place where third and fourth level spiritual beasts came and went as they pleased. Entering it while being below the bone tempering stage equaled death. But this area was filled with spiritual beasts, an important place from where strong experts got their spirit animals. The third area was deemed as the danger zone. The spiritual beasts here were of 5th and 6th level. Even a radiant stage expert would die here. As such, if one didn't have absolute confidence in his power, he would not step foot here. Zhuo Fan was now standing near the border between the first and second areas. Once they entered the second area, Xuaningxiang, with her qi condensation cultivation, would find death lurking at every corner. Zhuofan took a deep breath and nodded. This is it. Xuaningxiang and Xie Tianyang were puzzled, but Zhuofan waved, Brother Tianyang. I'll be counting on your burrowing mouse to dig a tunnel to the golden spring pool. Then keep digging along this pattern. Zhuofan pointed on the map. This is where the golden spring pool is. What? Xie Tianyang said, startled. For it to dig to the golden spring pool is not a problem, but for it to arrange spirit stones and set an array, it will take more than 1,000 trips. Correct? 3221 to be exact. Zhuofan nodded. Burrowing mouse is small and can only carry one spirit stone at a time. This means it will take 3,221 trips to set the array around the golden spring pool. Xie Tianyang gasped and Xuaningxiang went slack-jawed. You want to work it to death? Even the burrowing mouse seemed to understand and collapsed on Xie Tianyang's shoulder. Shit, this punk is after my life. I can't do this idiotic thing or it'll be the death of me. Burrowing mouse shut its eyes. Even when it fell from the shoulder and landed on a rock, it wouldn't open them, though its twitching gave it away. Zhuofan smirked and ignored the critter while talking to its owner. Time is of the essence. Diamond sand could erupt at any minute, so get your critter step on it. Is there no other way? Xie Tianyang asked with a solemn expression. Zhuofan smiled. If you can snatch the diamond sand from right under their noses, then be my guest. Xie Tianyang watched the unmoving critter on the ground with pity. Zhuofan added an incentive. There's a lot more burrowing mouse where he comes from, but as for diamond sand, only if you listen to me will you make a killing. Spurred on, Xie Tianyang's eyes flashed and he nodded. Fine, it's just a first-level spirit animal anyway. Who would need it, ha ha ha. The burrowing mouse jumped to its feet and pleaded to its owner with teary eyes. Master, how can you be so cruel? I'll end up working to the bone. But Xie Tianyang was too far gone to notice its gesture, as he and Zhuofan looked like demons with their manic grins at the poor critter. Xuaningxiang watched the cuddly and pitiful little one and her heart swelled with love. She hugged it and comforted it as she glared at the two demons. But why would any of them care about a critter when diamond sand was at stake? At once, under the stately figure of its master Xie Tianyang, the burrowing mouse was compelled to dig to Golden Spring Pool. In 15 minutes, a new pattern was beginning to emerge underneath the Golden Spring Pool, all according to Zhuofan's grand design. Yet the elder stationed at the Golden Spring Pool was oblivious to everything that was happening right underneath his nose. This was only the beginning for the oppressed burrowing mouse, which was forced to work itself into the ground. The only time the trio saw it was when it came for the next spirit stone. It could take it at first, but once it was finished with its first 100 stones, it was dog-tired that even its fur was slick with sweat. Around the 500th trip, the critter was gasping. Xuaningxiang's heart was bleeding, wanting to give the poor guy a rest. But Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang stood like demons, just like a landlord overlooking his peasants, making sure to leave them dead tired. Especially Xie Tianyang, having nothing but diamond sand in his head. He had no time to mind trifles like getting his spirit animal killed from overworking. This resulted with the burrowing mouse making trip after trip and Xuaningxiang giving it a sip of water on the sly out of pity, the only thing that she could do to ease its hell. In the eyes of the little guy, she became a goddess. It was starting to hate itself for choosing poorly. Its owner just heard Demon King Zhuofan's 2 cents and was hooked into sending it to its death. When it came out for the final time, it was close to breathing its last. Xuaningxiang hugged it and consoled it, letting it feel the joy of a survivor. Zhuofan smiled at Xie Tianyang. See? I told you it'd be fine. Xie Tianyang sighed. Yeah, but this guy would hate me to the bone after this. No choice. If we wanted to have the array in place within 3 days, the only choice was its sacrifice. Zhuofan shrugged. If he'd really died of work, then it wouldn't be treated as a first-level spiritual beast. Zhuofan stood up and his hand flashed as he deployed another array on the stream's bank. With a hand sign, the spirit stones in the ground lit up. An invisible ripple spread out and the two arrays, thousands of miles from each other, were now connected. At almost the same time, the elder at the Golden Spring Pool shivered and opened his eyes with suspicion. What's going on? Why am I restless all of a sudden? Next to the stream, Zhuofan revealed a wicked grin. Only one more push. When the diamond sand erupts, Hell Valley's elder would get the shock of his life. Chapter 61 Heaven and Earth Shift. Chapter 61 Heaven and Earth Shift. With everything in place, Zhuofan's party entered an idle period alongside Hell Valley's elder, waiting for the eruption of diamond sand. For a while, everything was quiet and peaceful. Xie Tianyang was feeling bored standing guard every day and thought of training his martial arts. But his worries about the diamond sand erupting and Zhuofan hogging it won over that feeling in the end. Because he knew Zhuofan's mannerism but not his intention, and because he didn't understand Zhuofan either, he held some mistrust. While Xuaningxiang seemed to have forgotten about the diamond sand and played with the burrowing mouse every day, Xie Tianyang tried to call the critter over. But the little guy gave him an eye roll, which only worked to embarrass him. It was his spirit animal, yet it was closer with Xuaningxiang. So he switched targets to Zhuofan, watching him with a perplexed look. Zhuofan was a riddle, be it his background or his origins. In no way would he believe Zhuofan's words of coming from a small clan. Among their group, Zhuofan was the calmest. Over the past 10 so days all he did was meditate, as if he didn't care about the diamond sand at all, while in fact it also concerned him the most. Zhuofan in Xie Tianyang's mind was becoming more valued, with how rare such a character existed in the Tianyu Empire. At least he didn't have the state of mind to cultivate while waiting for the diamond sand like Zhuofan. Cultivating with his anxiety and restlessness would only cause a deviation, while Zhuofan, Xie Tianyang scrutinized Zhuofan, feeling envy. A sudden sound woke Zhuofan up. At last, the sixth layer of qi condensation. Xie Tianyang's cheek trembled and showed a resigned expression. To break through at such a crucial time, he would never reach Zhuofan's state of mind for years to come. This was how the trio spent the next month. Xie Tianyang was bored out of his mind. Xuaningxiang and the critter played like crazy, sporting smiles every moment, while Zhuofan sat there in meditation. Rolling his eyes, Xie Tianyang was driven to the point of insanity. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have pushed the burrowing mouse that hard. The critter broke up with him so thoroughly that it wouldn't even come to relieve his boredom. Can't take it anymore. Xie Tianyang wailed. Then a sudden bang resounded across the mountain range and the ground started shaking. It's time. Zhuofan jumped to his feet. Xuaningxiang, who was playing with the critter, was a bit startled and turned to Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang. But the two didn't look afraid, only excited. Hell Valley's seventh elder stationed at Golden Spring Pool flew higher. Ha ha ha, I have waited 2 months for this. Men, cast the nets to gather the diamond sand. The seventh elder roared and the bone-tempering guards bowed. Understood. They then began throwing golden nets into the Golden Spring Pool, until it was all shining golden. At the same time at the stream, Zhuofan asked, Did you prepare a net? Ha ha ha, why would I come for diamond sand if I hadn't? Xie Tianyang laughed and cast his net. Diamond sand erupted along with lava, and it needed special nets to filter it. Zhuofan also cast his own golden net into the stream. Xie Tianyang watched him doubtful. Brother Zhuo, what will you do now? Watch closely. Zhuofan smiled with confidence and his hand performed signs. Heaven and earth reverse, mountains and river switch, yin and yang shift, twin array exchange. The spirit stones laid underground shined ever brighter, and each beam of light pierced the horizon. All around the Golden Spring Pool, 3,221 light pillars towered towards the sky. The seventh elder felt uneasy, but as Diamond Sand's eruption was imminent, he had no time to mind parlor tricks and fixed his eyes on the hot spring's mouth. Suddenly, a column of water sprouted from the spring, just that the heat from it was far lower. People were stunned seeing this. Reason dictated that along with the eruption of diamond sand, lava should flow out too. The hot spring's water would be so hot that not even a bone-tempering expert should be able to approach. But why was there only plain water? Seventh elder blinked in a daze, then facepalmed. Damn it, someone's playing us. He rushed higher in the air and saw thousands of light pillars in the distance. There! Seventh elder seethed in rage as he charged. You're dead if you think you can play me. Meanwhile, the stream before Zhuofan's party was gone. replaced by a dark hole that was soon spewing lava along with fine and shiny particles. Diamond sand. Xie Tianyang was overjoyed as he turned to Zhuofan in shock. Brother Zhua, you're great. How is the diamond sand erupting here? Grinning, Zhuofan flatly said. This array is called Heaven and Earth Shift. It is a mere first-grade array, but it can reverse yin and yang, shift mountains and rivers. I only switched diamond sand's flow to here. Zhuofan said it dully, but Xie Tianyang was shocked to the core. As far as he knew, only 6th grade and above arrays could do that, and they were all lost. But Zhuofan not only did it but used just a first-grade array in the process. He started to recall Zhuofan mentioning Veiled Dragon Pavilion's alliance agreement. It might not be far-fetched for Veiled Dragon Pavilion to make such an agreement if they knew of Brother Zhuo's outrageous talent. Xie Tianyang watched Zhuofan closely with a secret smile. He didn't think he'd meet such a man when he decided to get the diamond sand. There may not be a second person in the empire who can set this array. Xie Tianyang then spoke. Brother Zhuo, would you like to come into Sword Marquis's abode as a venerable? Xuaningxiang was tongue-tied. Zhuofan was so young yet. He'd get to be a venerable in one of the 7 houses. Zhuofan rolled his eyes and almost made Xuaningxiang stumble with his next words. Save it. Veiled Dragon Pavilion tried it already and I refused them all the same. That's why they changed to having an alliance agreement. Brother Zhuo, you're showing off here. Xuaningxiang clearly doubted his words. But Xie Tianyang nodded and said, all right, I will send someone with an alliance agreement when I get back. Where do I send it? Windgaze City's Luo clan. I will return when I am finished with my affairs. Xie Tianyang hesitated. Then I will wait for your return. I want to sign it with you. With your skills, when you leave the Luo clan in the future, we won't lose out then. Zhuofan shook his head. Why are all 7 houses the same? Xuaningxiang gasped as her face twitched. Sword Marquis's abode is so unruly. Why would they want to sign an agreement with an outsider? And it wasn't with a clan, but with a single man. But what escaped her thoughts was that precisely because Xie Tianyang was from the 7 houses that he valued Zhuofan so much, the average clan would never see Zhuofan's value. At this time, the dark cave let out a final eruption of lava. Seeing this, Zhuofan urged, get the nets. Why the hurry? Xie Tianyang waved and continued with a smile. The nets are made of spirit metal. They won't break in lava. Zhuofan snorted, you think I don't know that? If we don't go now, we may not have a life to enjoy it. Xie Tianyang was startled as Zhuofan continued. You think all elders from Hell Valley are blind? Who wouldn't notice the light pillars? Just wait, and you will have a profound heaven expert hovering overhead. Xie Tianyang rushed in with his hand signs to recover the net. As the nets rose, the trio saw the glitters among the lava. And on the net's threads was shining sand. What do we do now? Xie Tianyang was happy seeing the net but was aware of the imminent danger. Zhuofan dragged them for 12 hours to this place for a reason most obvious. To buy time. Even a profound heaven expert would need 2 hours to reach here. During this time they could retrieve the diamond sand and leave. But where to run was the question. Where was safe? Noticing Zhuofan gazing at the stream's opposite bank, the pair shouted, the second area? Wrong. Zhuofan said dryly, the third area. Gasping, the two stared at Zhuofan in a daze. Is this guy crazy? The second area is dangerous enough, but going to the third is suicide. But they both were oblivious to the fact that Zhuofan's aim from the start was in that area. 6th level spiritual beast, Thunder Skylark. Chapter 62 Chase. Chapter 62 Chase. We'll divide the diamond sand first then flee. Zhuofan was getting eager to get his share of the spoils when he saw the glittering dust and gave the two the cold shoulder. Xuaningxiang and Xie Tianyang smiled bitterly. Ever since they ran into Zhuofan, they were led by the nose. Zhuofan did whatever he wanted whenever he wanted. The same went for abusing the critter and setting an array to steal all diamond sand. But all turned out fine in the end. Everything he did was flawless and brought success. So despite Zhuofan making no sense, which added to their worry, the two believed he had a failsafe in place. So Xie Tianyang dropped the issue and was excited by all the glittering dust before him. Whoosh! The dust flowed like water out of the net and filled a 1-meter-tall bucket, and that was just a third. So everyone started taking out any containers they had from their rings, and the coveted diamond sand soon filled vessels of all shapes and sizes. Seeing such a haul, Xie Tianyang was smiling in excitement. At first he hoped to use the burrowing mouse to get a bit of diamond sand, and now with a weirdo like Shuofan around they got everything in no time at all. In refining a 5th-grade spiritual weapon, a handful of diamond sand was enough to raise its power, making it a top 5th-grade spiritual weapon. But with heaps of diamond sand, who knew how many such weapons could be made, and he could even add as much dust as he wanted in the refining process. When refining, people would add a gram, fuse it well, then add another gram, thereby increasing the amount of diamond sand progressively. With this much yield, it's even possible to make a pure diamond sand spiritual weapon. Ha ha ha. Xie Tianyang started laughing. Despite his high position in Sword Marquis's abode and not being poor in the least, compared to the diamond sand before him, it was no different than being a beggar. Shuofan saw Xie Tianyang laugh. His eyes flashed as he turned back to the glittering sand with a smirk. Sword Marquis's abode's disciples are ignorant of the world outside. Shuofan then stashed half of the sand into his ring while he spoke in a flat tone. This is my share and the rest is yours. Xie Tianyang blinked, then smiled. No worries, it's fine if you take a bit more. They had struck it rich this time. So, even with Shuofan taking half, it was more than enough for the other two. But in the end, this wealth was divided in two, with Xuaningxiang having no interest in it. Compared to having such a precious item, she'd rather get out of Blue Expanse City. Shuofan only took his share, leaving hers untouched. Xie Tianyang secretly nodded and took the rest of the diamond sand, and asked Shuofan, how do we escape now? Whoosh! Shuofan's hand held a small bottle and took 3 red pills out. He ate one and gave the rest to the two. This is a 1st-grade pill, energy-concealing pill. It can hide our auras for a whole day, and let us pass through the 2nd area while not attracting spiritual beasts. Xie Tianyang looked at the pill with amazement. That's great. Where did you get it? All Beast Mountain Range was a treasure trove that had the continent's cultivators drooling over for thousands of years. Too bad the spiritual beasts were a bit savage and kept the cultivators at bay. If they knew such a pill existed, they'd be fighting over it. Moreover, it was just a 1st-grade pill. As far as Xie Tianyang knew, the continent didn't have such a pill, or wouldn't the cultivators be flocking here by now? Xuaningxiang was also amazed. Shuofan scratched his nose. I made it. It is unique to me. Xie Tianyang shouted. You're a freaking alchemist too. Perhaps he was a bit too amazing that Xie Tianyang even had to resort to curses. But Shuofan couldn't care less, which was evident from his shrug. Yep, the more skills the better. The shock got to Xie Tianyang so badly that his cheek was twitching. Who the hell is this punk? He's a chi condensation cultivator, yet can match me, a bone-tempering cultivator. And now he's an alchemist too? Not only that, but he also sets up a lost array and refines unprecedented pills. Until now he thought that he had met a paragon like himself, just another strong opponent like the few geniuses he found his match in the 7 houses. But with Shuofan revealing that he was also an alchemist, gave Xie Tianyang's psyche a heavy blow. Next time around he'd never say that he was a genius, at least not when Shuofan was present. Xie Tianyang swallowed the pill and jumped across the stream and into the 2nd area. Let's go. Shuofan and Xuaningxiang were startled. What's up with him? They didn't know that this proud and conceited genius had just fallen from Cloud 9 all the way down into the mortal quagmire. 2 hours later, a gray figure landed next to the stream. It was the 7th elder. His face was red with rage when he saw the steaming lava, and his hawk eyes flashed with killing intent. Someone pulled the diamond sand here. Squinting, the 7th elder huffed a few times then calmed down. But the coldness on his face grew thicker. He looked around and muttered, they just got the diamond sand and shouldn't have run far. If they stayed in the 1st area, death was only a matter of time. Then, the 7th elder turned to the opposite bank with a sneer. Think you can get rid of me with parlor tricks? Then he soared into the 2nd area. 100 miles out, Shuofan's party was running when a sudden cawing came from behind, followed by crows taking to the sky. Shuafan stopped and looked back with a frown. What? Xie Tianyang and Xuaningxiang also stopped. What's going on? Shuafan muttered. That elder is charging right into the second area. What? Xie Tianyang was anxious. What now? He will catch up in no time. Shuafan sighed. I don't know. I thought that the elder would first search the first area after inspecting the lava, just to be sure, thus buying us enough time. Moreover, the second area is notoriously dangerous, so I guessed he wouldn't come here to search so soon. That is why I picked this area to flee. And by the time he'd figure it out, we'd have a 6-hour lead. And for his safety in the second area, he'd be flying far slower to avoid 4th-level spiritual beasts. At that point, we'd be in the third area and he'd ultimately given up the chase. In that area, he will be in the same boat as us, food for the spiritual beasts. So he'd never go in after us. Shuafan squinted. Yet he went for the second area from the start. In this case, we only have 1 hour lead. If he catches up to us here, we're dead. Brother Zhua, haven't you heard of the 7th elder and what he is famous for? Xie Tianyang asked. Shuafan was startled. I only knew that a Hell Valley's elder was stationed here, but not the details. Sighing, Xie Tianyang shook his head. Know your enemy and yourself and you shall win 100 battles. It's normal for you to make a mistake when you don't even know how dreadful the 7th elder is. Dreadful? Shuafan frowned. Xie Tianyang said in a severe tone. He is greatly admired in Hell Valley, and even Valley Lord Yuanshan consults with him. Or he wouldn't have left such an important city in the 7th elder's charge. You're saying he's strong? Shuafan's brow twitched. Xie Tianyang shook his head. Not his strength but his schemes. He is cunning and deceitful, known as the insidious demon. His mind is filled with schemes. Many elders of the 7 houses have fallen in his ploys. Even Veiled Dragon Pavilion's elder Zhou lost his purple lightning gold eye because of the 7th elder's plot. Many hate him to the bone, but even more fear him. No wonder Zhuafan's plan fell through. He is another who plays open schemes. This kind of plot is useless against him. But the die was cast and Zhuafan's only choice was to beat him at his own game. Brother Zhua, our only choice is to leave Lady Ninger behind. With our speed, we may be able to escape the 7th elder's clutches. Xie Tianyang's eyes flashed as he spoke firmly. Xuaningxiang shuddered and grabbed Zhuafan's arm with a pitiful look. Brother Zhua, you promised to get me out. Brother Zhua, this is not the time to be soft. Leave her behind. She will stall the 7th elder while we escape. Xie Tianyang's mind was set. Zhuafan squinted as he contemplated, then sneered at Xie Tianyang. Humph, if not for my energy-concealing pill, you'd have thrown me away too. Xie Tianyang's mouth pursed. Zhuafan laughed it off and said, I won't abandon anyone. As for that elder, I have my way to deal with him. I will fight him right here with an array. Xie Tianyang nodded after a careful ponder. He knew of Zhuafan's skills in arrays and was certain that Zhuafan was an array grandmaster. Xuaningxiang was beaming as she heard him and was swinging Zhuafan's arm on and on with a red tint on her cheeks. But they both failed to notice Zhuafan's odd smile at the end. Chapter 63 Thunderflame Gale Array. Chapter 63 Thunderflame Gale Array. Whoosh! Beneath the shade of the forest, a gray figure flitted by. The moment a spiritual beast saw him, it would jump on him with greedy eyes. But the beast would ultimately fall to the ground lifeless with an extra fist imprint on its chest. The 7th elder's eyes turned darker, but his speed remained the same. Unlike Zhuafan, his flight attracted no little amount of trouble. Yet this only left a trail of 3rd-level spiritual beasts' corpses behind. He was lucky enough that he did not meet a 4th-level spiritual beast, or it would have been a slightly different outcome. Whoosh! Suddenly he landed in an open area. He checked for tracks, making sure nothing escaped his sight. Hee 3 little brats. Want to run? The 7th elder sneered. He stood upright and scrutinized his surroundings with a cold eye. Will you come out yourselves or shall I drag you out? His yell bathed the trees in killing intent and scared off nearby spiritual beasts. Ha ha ha, I see the 7th elder is not without his reputation. No wonder you are called insidious demon, finding how many we are just from a few faint signs. I am in awe. Zhuo Fan's laughter resounded through the air. The seventh elder frowned and paid closer attention. Kid, you have just entered the 6th layer of qi condensation. Good ears. The hidden Zhuo Fan felt his heart go cold. This elder was shrewder than he'd thought, a hard opponent, but he still kept his cool. 7th elder must be tired after such a long chase. And fighting here will attract 4th level spiritual beasts. It will be quite an annoyance to you. What if we strike a deal? Witches. The 7th elder snorted and his cold eyes flitted around the area. Zhuo Fan smiled. 7th elder chased us for so long, all for the diamond sand. If we give you half, are you willing to let us go? You must be joking. The diamond sand was mine to begin with. You want to bargain with what you stole from me? The 7th elder laughed while being shrouded in thick killing intent. I will not only get my diamond sand but wring the life out of you brats. Then the elder rushed towards a lush tree. He struck it with his palm and made it explode, to reveal Zhuo Fan sitting on the rock behind it. He brat, you knew of my sharp hearing yet still talked about conditions with me. The 7th elder went for another palm attack, this time targeting Zhuo Fan. But the latter was calm as ever. He even smiled. I've never been afraid of revealing myself from the start. Zhuo Fan's hand shifted and, boom! With a loud noise from behind Zhuo Fan, a towering flame rose 50 meters high. And with a bird cry it took the shape of a phoenix. It spread its wings and launched 2 fire pillars at 7th elder. Array! The elder was startled as he didn't foresee the weak brat would know about arrays. From the look of its power it had to be in 5th grade. No longer careless, he struck the pillars with his palms. Boom! Raging flames exploded and the elder was thrown back with burned palms. Looking up, the elder's carefree eyes from before sported a hint of severity now. I took you lightly. The 7th elder squinted, never imagining a 6th layer of qi condensation youth was a 5th grade array master. Too bad it won't be enough to beat me. The 7th elder soared and made a sign. A fiendish demonic shadow rose behind him from the twisting black tendrils of energy. Wails echoed around him and made the temperature drop. Zhuo Fan's eyes squinted and his tone lowered. Such a malevolent demonic method. Is this from Hell Valley's inheritance? Why do the dead need to know so much? The 7th elder cackled and pointed. The demonic shadow rushed at Zhuo Fan with a shriek. Zhuo Fan responded with a hand sign. The fire phoenix cried and spat flames. Bam! Flames and shadow collided in an anticlimactic way. When the fire touched the demon, hissing was heard as if it was met with ice. The 7th elder looked proud of this while Zhuo Fan squinted. Ninger now! A faint cry echoed and from another side not far from Zhuo Fan, a fierce gale hammered through the woods and exposed Xue Ningxiang sitting on a stone. At Zhuo Fan's call, she made the hand signs he had taught her. A chilling wind picked up and flew like a blade as it fused into the fire phoenix's attack. The fire pillar expanded 10 times in a blink and started pushing back the demonic shadow. The 7th elder's face turned grave and made hand signs to strengthen the demonic shadow. But with the help of Xue Ningxiang, Zhuo Fan was getting the upper hand and the 7th elder started sweating. He never saw it coming. Another person was controlling the array. But before he could think of a countermeasure, Zhuo Fan shouted again. Xie Tianyang, he's yours. Ha ha ha, I was waiting for this. See how I splatter the brains of a profound heaven expert. Under Xie Tianyang's incessant cackling, lightning burst and revealed him sitting on the other side of Zhuo Fan and across from Xue Ningxiang. Xie Tianyang made a hand sign and launched a 50-meter-long lightning dragon. With a roar it flashed right into the demonic shadow. Boom! As lightning entered the shadow, it triggered an explosion. The demonic shadow could not overcome the multiple increases in power, and was blown into black pieces, soon becoming nothing but ash. The 7th elder spatted blood. This defied all logic. Today 3 brats hurt him. But the brats were far from done and battered him with the thunderflame gale again. If he didn't do something now, he'd be heavily wounded. He may even die. The 7th elder braced himself and waved the centipede-like chain that suddenly appeared in his hand. Boom! The thunderflame gale attack was blown away as the elder took a few steps back. Zhuofan's side also shivered as each of them felt blood stagnating in their chest. It was a tie. Fourth grade demonic treasure? Zhuofan turned serious. The seventh elder gasped and barked, "Good, well done. I've traveled the world for so long, but today, 3 brats have reduced me to this state." He turned to Zhuofan. "I admit you're strong. If we continue, it will end with both sides dead. It's better to take your previous deal. Give me half of diamond sand and I will go." The 3 exchanged glances. Xuaningxiang and Xie Tianyang didn't want to offend Hell Valley and nodded. Zhuofan showed an amiable smile. "All right, let's make the deal." He then jumped off the stone. The 7th elder took back his weapon and flew towards Zhuofan. When they were 10 meters apart, suddenly both their eyes flashed with murderous intent. "Die, brat! Finish him!" Shouting at the same time, the 7th elder revealed his demonic treasure and flung it at Zhuofan while the latter made hand signs. The flames and the centipede chain clashed. Xie Tianyang and Xuaningxiang were startled. Even though they missed the first clash, they soon sent lightning and wind blade toward the elder. The 7th elder couldn't dodge and had to destroy their attacks with his chain once again, but he was also forced to retreat to the skies. Eyeing Zhuofan, the elder's face turned green and white from rage. "Bastard! Who would believe you? He takes a demonic cultivator to no one." Zhuofan smirked. Xuaningxiang and Xie Tianyang witnessed this in a daze. Who the hell are they? One is more despicable than the other. None of them is worth trusting. Both of them had only one thought since the beginning: kill. They're too damn vile, treacherous, insidious. Had one of them trusted the other, then their side would have died by now. This thought made the 2 gasp and their eyes darted at Zhuofan. "Thank God we have one just as vile and insidious among us, or we'd be dead for sure." Chapter 64 Bait. Chapter 64 Bait. I need to calm down first. The 7th elder took a deep breath and inspected the area with wrinkled brows. He found that the recovery of diamond sand was becoming a headache, and when he knew the trio ran into the second area, he confirmed it. With his experience, he could easily discover their meager cultivation, and with the highest among them being the 7th layer of bone tempering stage, it was no different than squeezing 3 insects. What was unbelievable though, one of them had a deep knowledge of arrays along with a cunning mind, unlike a rash and ignorant youth he posed to be. This led to the current predicament. With the 3 working together to control the array, he would never get the upper hand. However, he thought of something and his hawk eyes flashed sinisterly. "You are Shui clan's 3rd young miss." The 7th elder ignored Zhuofan and switched targets, sizing Xuaningxiang with a smile. "I remember seeing you 5 years ago. You were just a child back then. My, how you've grown into a fine lady." Xuaningxiang's heart seized and lowered her head to avoid his piercing gaze. Zhuofan shouted, "7th elder, if you have something to say it to my face. Don't go around scaring girls." Yet the 7th elder's eyes never left Xuaningxiang. "Ninger, why do you bother going against me? Shui clan is a vassal of Hell Valley. We always took care of your Shui clan. And yet here you are resorting to this." His eyes flashed with murder as he spoke. Xuaningxiang shivered and could no longer keep the hand sign up. Zhuofan knew that the 7th elder was threatening Xuaningxiang and rushed to say, "Attack." He and Xie Tianyang synced their hand signs, launching lightning and fire at the 7th elder. But Xuaningxiang was still in a daze, her hands trembling. Xie Tianyang thought, "Damn, Xuaningxiang is worried for her clan and has no will to fight. Without the wind's help, there'll be a sharp decline in power." The 7th elder was fighting a psychological battle, grasping the trio's weakness. Fire and lightning combined as it neared the elder, but his centipede chain just flew at it and the attack was nulled. The 7th elder stood still in the sky while Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang spat blood. "Ha ha ha, that's better." The 7th elder cackled, "Ninger, you made the right choice. These brats will wash their hands over this and leave from here, while your clan will stay forever." Zhuofan looked at the shivering Xuaningxiang and urged, "Ninger, don't listen to the old goat. He knows who you are and will destroy your clan either way. The only way to save the Shui clan is to kill him here and now. Remember my words, the Thunderflame Gale array needs 3 people to work together, and as long as the three are in sync, not even a profound heaven expert can escape. Another shiver reeked Xue Ningxiang's frail body, and now she stood still. The seventh elder's words scared her, but she had finally recovered. Zhuo Fan smirked and shouted, "If this old coot lives, your clan is no more." Boom! His words echoed in her ears, and Xue Ningxiang rose her head to show killing intent for the first time as she muttered non-stop, "He can't leave. He has to die, he must die." Xue Ningxiang roared the last word and completed the hand sign. A green panther roared behind her and sped towards the seventh elder, 10 times stronger than before. The elder panicked, noticing the true power of the array in Xue Ningxiang's hands. From the start, the two brats used all they had in fighting me, yet she hadn't. Xue Ningxiang was a kind and gentle soul, not willing to kill even her enemy. But the seventh elder's word struck a chord in her frail heart that she was close to losing her will for fighting. It was then that Zhuo Fan woke her up and lit a fire in her. The dissonance in her heart led to unleashing her full power. To protect her clan, Xue Ningxiang turned cold and unfeeling like a reaper. She was willing to do anything and everything to make sure the old geezer died here. Zhuo Fan and Xie Tianyang smiled and launched their own attacks. Fire, wind, and lightning combined at their strongest into an overpowering strike that threatened to consume the seventh elder. Even the calm and collected seventh elder was starting to feel fear. He hastily lifted the centipede chain and lashed. Boom! A huge explosion shook the entire second area, and even the sky seemed to collapse. Some fourth-level spiritual beasts even fled. The seventh elder, who was caught in the middle, was blasted a dozen meters with his hair and beard singed as he spat blood. But this time, the blood evaporated before it touched the ground. It was proof of the intensity of the attack that pierced his inner organs. With such a heavy wound, just one more and he'd be done for. For the first time, the seventh elder panted with fear in his eyes. Not even he could foresee that the array needed just the girl to flip out for unleashing its full power. But he understood that he would not be able to take more of such attacks. He's on his last leg. Ning or Xie Tianyang, get ready. We'll finish him off. Zhuo Fan laughed as he made another hand sign. But a sudden green panther beat him and Xie Tianyang to the punch. All Zhuo Fan saw was Xue Ningxiang going crazy and making signs on and on as she raved. He has to die, he must die. Damn, this girl has lost it. I managed to spur her on, but now she is too far gone. Her only thought is to kill the old goat, even disregarding cooperation with her allies. Her action was limiting the array's power. The seventh elder noticed this weakness and smiled as he charged for Xue Ningxiang. He was only facing a wind panther, and without the other two elements, he could breeze through it. With a swing of the centipede chain, the panther was no more. Quickly help Ninger. Zhuo Fan panicked as he formed hand signs alongside Xie Tianyang. Once again lightning and fire came at the seventh elder. Yet such lack of cooperation lost the array's advantage, and the seventh elder dealt with it easily. He flung the centipede chain, removing this nuisance, and appeared before Xue Ningxiang. But she sank in, making hand signs. The seventh elder snorted and clutched her neck, lifting her off the ground. Xue Ningxiang began suffocating and her hands slowed down. Crazy girl, you almost had me killed. Consider yourself lucky since you still have some use, or I'd have killed you already. Ninger. Zhuo Fan and Xie Tianyang stood up with worry. The seventh elder mocked them. What are you brats called anyway? Sit tight. I will deal with you in a moment. Zhuo Fan clenched his fists. Cough, cough, cough. Xue Ningxiang coughed, looking at Zhuo Fan with pleading eyes. Kill him. Don't let him harm my father. What a carrying daughter. You're still thinking about your father? Too bad these two brats have no way of killing me. Once I get back, I'll make sure to wipe the Xue clan for good. Tears glistened down Xue Ningxiang's cheeks. Xie Tianyang's heart hurt and roared in anger. Hell Valley Elder, does one of your stature even know what shame is to raise your hand on a defenseless girl? There's no such thing as shame in a demonic cultivator's vocabulary. The seventh elder cackled and turned to Zhuo Fan. Brat, you're just like this old man, stirring this girl's will to fight with a few words. I would have taken you as my disciple if not for us being enemies. You hurt my friend, so you must die by my hands. Zhuo Fan's tone was irreproachable. Xie Tianyang, get ready to strike. But Ninger. Ninger also agreed. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed with a hard look. Xie Tianyang felt cold as he looked at Zhuo Fan, then saw the pleading eyes of Xue Ningxiang and sighed. This old man must die, or he will slaughter the Xue clan and Ninger won't ever find peace, even in death. Xie Tianyang then yelled as he made hand signs. The lightning dragon roared as it encroached on the seventh elder. Zhuo Fan, with his red eyes, also shouted, and the phoenix behind him spread its wings. This was the strongest power they managed to unleash through their cooperation. But to all this, the seventh elder's answer was disdain. Humph, I have already figured out this array. Without wind, just you two are nothing. Xie Tianyang gnashed his teeth. Would our full power attack amount to nothing? Would we meet our end at his hands? Furthermore, Ninger's clan would be doomed. But Zhuo Fan revealed an evil grin. Who said we lacked wind? His hands shifted through the signs and the seventh elder was swallowed by a tornado, turning his immediate surrounding into a wind prison. Then came the lightning dragon and fire phoenix. Boom! Fire and lightning mixed, erupting in a spectacular fashion on contact with the tornado, burning everything within into nothing. This display of power was twice as strong as their best attack. This time the elder should be dead. Xie Tianyang watched it all at a loss. How the wind appeared. Zhuo Fan smiled, unlike someone who just lost a friend. I told you before that I can't control the fifth grade array by myself, and need all three of us to work together. Right? Well, I lied. That seventh elder would have seen through you and I couldn't have deceived him in the end. What all was a lie, Xie Tianyang stammered. Zhuo Fan smiled. Insidious demon is beyond sharp. He is Hell Valley's sage. If I fight him alone, defeat is certain. So I arranged for you two to work with me in controlling the array and help conserve power. But this wasn't without its weakness. Us three had to be in full cooperation to unleash its greatest power. Him being the insidious demon, he would find this out with ease and would target the weakest among us. It's clear Ninger is that person and he would attack her. But he would have never guessed Ninger was the bait I laid out for him. So he fell right into my trap. Why, you're saying that you had planned on giving up on Ninger from the start? Xie Tianyang gasped. Zhuo Fan felt like a stranger to him. He still recalled how Zhuo Fan yelled at Ninger, I won't leave anyone behind, his eyes filled with righteousness. Was it all an act? What's with that look? Zhuo Fan sneered. Didn't you say to leave Ninger behind and flee, that she was a burden? I only thought of a more appropriate use of this burden. What of your promise to her? Xie Tianyang swallowed dryly. I heard you promised Ninger to take her outside the city. Zhuo Fan waved it off. The result's the same, be it living or otherwise. Seeing Zhuo Fan's casual manner, Xie Tianyang felt numb and a chill crawled up his spine. After working together for over a month, he had thought that he somewhat understood Zhuo Fan's character. But now it felt like he was talking to a stranger. Such sheer cruelty made him, a seventh layer of bone-tempering expert, feel more fear than facing a radiant stage expert. But laughter came from amidst the thunderflame gale prison. Chapter 65 Insidious Demon. Chapter 65 Insidious Demon. Haha kid, you're just like me. Selfish, cruel, heartless, and won't even hesitate to use your own men. Even I'm feeling a bit afraid of you. Boom! The thunderflame gale prison blew away with a loud noise to reveal the sinister smiling seventh elder. Yet now he held another centipede chain in his hand, this one black. The two chains formed a helix around him, sparing his life from the dreadful attack. But even so, his body was littered with burn marks, and one could even see the bone in some places as blood seeped out. It was obvious that he survived because of these chains. And that too against the true power of the thunderflame gale array. After spitting some burning blood, the seventh elder gasped. But his wicked eyes never left Zhuo Fan for a moment. Kid, I have always been quick to pick up on things related to my enemies everywhere I went. But today you almost had me killed. I have to admit, I never met such dreadful brat in my life. Zhuo Fan looked over to see Xue Ningxiang unconscious at his feet. But she wasn't dead. Perhaps the chain helix protected her the same way it protected the elder. But it wasn't like Zhuo Fan cared if she lived or died. He just kept staring at the black centipede chain. You have another 4th-grade demonic treasure. I used to have only one. The 7th elder joined the 2 centipede chains together to form a black and white chain. This 4th-grade demonic treasure, yin-yang chains are of one body. I usually attack with the yang chain and use the yin chain to kill my enemy at the right time. But to save myself today, you forced me to reveal my yin chain. You should be proud of that. Even profound heaven experts only figure out the truth at the moment of their deaths. Zhuo Fan gnashed his teeth. The insidious demon title fits you like a glove. You were willing to suffer a heavy wound just to keep this move hidden. But of course. The 7th elder coughed blood twice, but his face still retained the sinister smile. With how the world is filled with lies and schemes, I prefer to keep my strongest move hidden. That is why my ploys always succeed while the ones against me fail. But today is the exception. The 7th elder's eyes flashed and threw the yang chain at Zhuo Fan and the yin chain at Xie Tianyang as he roared, "Too bad you're out of tricks and can't beat me." I beg to differ. Zhuo Fan smirked and made a hand sign, making a bloody light fly out of Xuaningxiang towards the 7th elder. The elder was seriously hurt and the chains were far away. Zhuo Fan watched him like a hawk just to find if he also had a defensive demonic treasure. This way he could put Blood Infant to good use. In his sorry state, if Blood Infant was to get inside the 7th elder, he'd be refined without even a means to resist. This was Zhuo Fan's true killing move. Even the Thunderflame Gale prison was only used as bait to reveal all the elder's cards. Zhuo Fan refused to believe a man with the insidious demon fame had no hidden means to save himself. Demonic creature. On the other hand, the 7th elder was startled by the bloody light. He now figured out what Zhuo Fan really intended when he said Xuaningxiang was the bait. It wasn't just to trap him in the Thunderflame Gale prison, but to also hide a killing move. With how close he was to her, he had no way of dodging. Insidious Demon had to admire Zhuo Fan's cunning mind for beating him at every turn. Zhuo Fan was expectant of victory as he smiled. "It's over, 7th elder. This fight is my win." Suddenly, the 7th elder's yang chain pierced through Zhuo Fan's chest. He felt his heart being crushed. A large hole was left behind on his body, with pieces of his heart here and there. This is impossible. Zhuo Fan was confident that the Blood Infant would gain control of the 7th elder once it entered him, also stopping the yang chain's attack. But the truth was the chain never stopped. Zhuo Fan even felt his organs withering and seeping life force. This wasn't caused by the chain, but by Blood Infant's injury. Puking blood, Zhuo Fan watched in shock as Blood Infant hung behind the 7th elder. A flash of silver revealed a needle impaling Blood Infant's chest. 3rd-grade demonic treasure, twisted needle. The 7th elder sneered at Zhuo Fan and pulled back the twisted needle into his elbow. Blood Infant collapsed and Zhuo Fan fell to his knees. His eyes were filled with dread. He couldn't believe he just lost. Bam! A sound was heard from the side. Xie Tianyang struggled for his life, but the yin chain lashed over his chest and he was now spitting blood. It was thanks to his spiritual armor that he was still breathing. Ignoring the rest, the 7th elder walked to Zhuo Fan calmly. "Kid, I am known as the insidious demon. How can anyone outsmart me?" The 7th elder watched the dying Zhuo Fan. "You're good, real good. Your schemes even make me feel fear. In a decade or two, you will become an outstanding demonic cultivator. Not even the #1 sage in Tianyu can compare to you. A pity you won't live so long because I am afraid of what you'll become. You are the first to ever make me feel this way." He was about to land the finishing blow. "You might die at my hand, but do not feel bad. Our cunningness is about the same, but I am stronger. In front of true power, all tricks, all methods are moot." The 7th elder's palm came from above and Zhuo Fan could even hear the whistling wind. He didn't want to die, but he had nothing left to fight with. A loss was a loss, be it in power or cunningness. And the one to lose died. But he had so many things he wanted to do. So what? The loser never had a choice to begin with. Closing his eyes, Zhuo Fan took one last breath and blacked out. Roar! A sudden roar shook the entire All-Beast mountain range and the seventh elder's palm stopped an inch above Zhuofan's head. Along with the roar, a wave of flames came to engulf everything. It swallowed trees and left empty husks behind. The seventh elder was startled. Looking towards the third area, he said with uncertainty, "Why is this monster coming to the second area?" Taking another look at the hopeless trio, he gnashed his teeth and fled, even disregarding the diamond sand. A bird cry soon followed and the skies darkened. A huge bird wing trailed above, overshadowing the earth. The spiritual beasts shivered in their caves. The huge bird's wing burned blue, and each flap sent sparks everywhere. Wherever the sparks landed, flames torched all of it into nothing. The previously lush forest was now reduced to ash after the bird passed. Not even bones were left of the fourth-level spiritual beasts touched by the flames. The huge bird flew for a while then left, but the forest beneath it was no more. Zhuofan and the other two were lying unconscious among the ashes. Some spiritual beasts passed by but finding them dead, they left. In fact, it was thanks to the energy-concealing pill that hid their auras. Cough, cough, cough. With a light cough, Xuaningxiang strained her eyes open, but shock swept her heart. Why is the forest gone and only ash remained? The seventh elder couldn't have done this. She looked around in haste for Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang and saw them lying unconscious. Zhuofan had the most critical injury, bleeding from the hole in his chest. He wasn't too far from breathing his last. Chapter 66 Guilt. Chapter 66 Guilt. Brother Zhua. Xuaningxiang was on Zhuofan with a cry and turned him over to see the fist-sized wound in his chest which went all the way through his back. His face paled by the second and his temperature dropped. Tears welled in Xuaningxiang's eyes and fell along with her anxious voice. Brother Zhua, wake up, wake up. Perhaps it was the soft tears or the incessant shouts grating on his ears that made Zhuofan crack his eyelids. Brother Zhua, you're awake. Xuaningxiang was glad. Zhuofan moved his lips but was too weak to even let out words. Watching her tear-stained face, Zhuofan took a deep breath and squeezed his last drop of energy into pointing, but his hands soon fell limp. Xuaningxiang caught his gesture and saw Blood Infant in a pool of blood. You want me to bring it over? She asked. Zhuofan blinked weakly, the only thing he could do in his current state. Xuaningxiang thus marched to Blood Infant and was soon back with it in her arms. She then placed it on the hole in Zhuofan's chest. Blood Infant flashed red and was back in Zhuofan's body. He let out a breath as his complexion started improving slightly. His and Blood Infant's lives were shared, so much so that its wound was far more important than his own injury. As long as Blood Infant was fine, him suffering heavy wounds would matter little. But now Blood Infant's life hung by a thread. Without his blood essence, he could only keep it alive for a short while longer. He was in a worse condition too and had no way to save it. But as Blood Infant was kept alive, a bit of energy returned to him. Be blood, Zhuofan whispered hoarsely. Xuaningxiang paused a moment, then cut her wrist with a dagger and brought her hand to Zhuofan's lips. The girl's blood dripped in Zhuofan's mouth and he slowly recovered a bit more energy. Xuaningxiang let out a relieved sigh and even sported a faint smile. But Zhuofan suddenly bit her wrist, sucking the blood out. Xuaningxiang braced through the pain and let him have his fill. Time passed but Zhuofan's appetite didn't drop. Xuaningxiang's face paled and was even getting woozy. She knew it was from the blood loss but she didn't stop him. When Zhuofan finally let go and gasped for fresh air, he saw Xuaningxiang's pale countenance and felt complicated. Thank you. Zhuofan now had the strength to speak, thanks to the blood. Xuaningxiang smiled. She was feeling weak but her smile looked mesmerizing to Zhuofan. Recalling his previous act, his heart began to feel guilt. With a thought, a blue bottle flashed in his hand. Ninger, these are third-grade heart-protecting pills. Give me one, you take the second and give the third to the kid if he isn't dead. Xuaningxiang nodded and fed the first pill to him. She checked Xie Tianyang and found him alive. Excited, she fed him a pill but saved hers. Zhuofan was laid on the ground but his heart was clear. Ninger, you are also hurt. Why aren't you taking it? Ninger shook her head. It's only a scratch. This pill is too precious and it's better used on you too. Haha, not in the least. It came from Veiled Dragon Pavilion anyway, so don't worry. Zhuofan smiled. He came to All Beast Mountain Range prepared, not only in spirit stones but also in pills. Since the Imperial family and Veiled Dragon Pavilion were providing the Luo clan with stuff, he had everything besides the truly rare pills. Some of his pills were something not found even in the entire Qianyu Empire, refined by yours truly. I didn't think I'd use them so fast. Ninger, take it, it's yours. A snort came and Xuaningxiang turned towards Xie Tianyang. He was also worse for wear, not life-threatened like Zhuofan, but he couldn't move still. He would need 3 to 5 months to heal. Zhuofan couldn't budge, but neither could he. Even so, his fear of Zhuofan wasn't that high and said with a clipped tone, Ninger, this big brother Zhuo wanted to use you as bait from the start. This is his just deserts. When Zhuofan exposed his plan, she was already unconscious in the Thunder Flame Gale prison explosion. But hearing it now, she was startled and looked at Zhuofan with the hope that he'd deny. She refused to believe that brother Zhuo, who stood by her side for over a month, would be so cruel as to throw her away. She hoped this was a misunderstanding, that Zhuofan would refute Xie Tianyang's claims. But Zhuofan remained silent, and his cold eyes refused to meet hers for the first time. With tears welling, Xuaningxiang forced her sorrow down, but her heart felt like being stabbed with a knife. She didn't realize when, but Zhuofan meant a lot to her. She didn't feel hate for being cast out, but pain. Sensing her pain, Zhuofan hesitated. Ninger, it's fine, you don't need to say anything. Xuaningxiang wiped her nose and forced a smile. I know brother Zhuo is brave and smart, that all went according to your plan. I'm sure it's a misunderstanding. She whipped her head around and left. I'm going to look for branches and make a stretcher. We can't keep staying here. Watching her walk away like nothing had happened, Xie Tianyang rose an eyebrow. Hey Ninger, you're going to forgive him just like that? He is hurt and can't move. Now's your chance for revenge. Yet Xuaningxiang didn't return. Xie Tianyang wanted to yell again, but then Zhuofan's snort came. Zip it. If you want to die, just ask. Humph, you have it worse than me, let's see you try. Xie Tianyang put up a tough front, but fear gnawed his heart because of the naked killing intent laced in Zhuofan's words. Seeing with his own eyes how Zhuofan had fought the seventh elder, he knew the horror Zhuofan could unleash. Despite losing, Zhuofan played with that insidious demon to such a state. He felt both fear and hatred towards Zhuofan. Hate for his unfeeling heart to his friends and fear from his cunning mind. But then a new feeling triumphed them both. Something the genius disciple of Sword Marquis Abode never felt before. Awe. Xuaningxiang was soon back with wood and made 2 stretchers. When she placed them both on each, Zhuofan wanted to apologize but swallowed his words when he saw her avoiding him. Rumble. With a thunderclap, the rain started pouring down on the ashen forest and helped the saplings grow. Xuaningxiang tied the stretchers with rope and trudged through the mud. Because of the heavy rain, the rough mountain path, and the blood loss, she fell down again and again. But she pressed on like a machine, dragging them ever forward. The 3 never spoke a word the entire time. Even Xie Tianyang's complaints about taking revenge fell silent. The 2 felt worse and worse the more they saw Xuaningxiang's pale face as she pulled them. Xie Tianyang was the first to mention casting her away for being weak. Zhuofan went a step further by rejecting the idea in a dignified manner, only to throw her out as bait not much later. And now the 2 were in dire straits, useless for months to come. But Xuaningxiang's heart remained steady and firm, never abandoning them. The 2 felt heavy in their hearts from the huge debt they had for her. How can we ever repay it? On the muddy and slick mountain road, a bump appeared and the burrowing mouse revealed itself. It ran towards Xuaningxiang as soon as it came out. Now that she saw the little guy, her smile came back on her face, since losing it when she found of Zhuofan's betrayal. Afraid of Critter suffering, she drove it away before their fight with the 7th elder. But now it came back. The little guy was jumping around her leg in joy, then skipped ahead of her. Xuaningxiang guessed that it was showing the way and dragged the stretchers to a cave. Happy, she pulled the 2 people into the cave for sheltering from the rain and healing their wounds. But Zhuofan looked around once and shouted in panic, We can't stay here, we have to leave now. Chapter 67 Heaven-Shaking Roar. Chapter 67 Heaven-Shaking Roar. Xuaningxiang turned to Zhuofan with a start. Zhuofan spoke while gazing at the weeds around the cave. That is soothing grass. That's perfect, it can help relieve fatigue. What is wrong with that? Xie Tianyang asked. Zhuofan said, annoyed. That's true for humans, but for spiritual beasts, it has a calming effect that attracts nearby spiritual beast. Xie Tianyang was anxious, that means trap. Zhuofan nodded, yes, a trap made by predators. The burrowing mouse was drawn here and led us right to it. Curses, you can just bury your head and run, but we'll have to suffer. Why had I taken you in anyway? Xie Tianyang snapped at the critter. He wasn't as brash usually, but he was now hurt and powerless to resist an attack. In this grim state, falling in a trap was the last straw. To escape from the seventh elder yet die in a beast's trap was something this genius disciple couldn't accept. The burrowing mouse squeaked a few times with a lowered head. Xuaningxiang hugged it to her chest and spoke softly to Zhuofan. What do we do now? She had ill feelings towards Zhuofan, but she always turned to him for help when the going got tough. What else? Run. Xie Tianyang cut him off. Zhuofan asked hastily, what time is it? Xuaningxiang looked outside the cave, but the rain clouds blocked the sky. She shook her head, I'm not sure, a day must have passed by now. Damn, Zhuofan said gravely. The energy-concealing pill must have worn off and we are now easy targets. I'm guessing beasts must be coming here in droves. What? Xie Tianyang jumped, you said droves? Zhuofan nodded, the truly strong spiritual beasts don't stoop so low to use this trick. Only low-level spiritual beasts place traps and move in packs. Just then, along with the sound of rain, roars of beast echoed, and several pairs of cruel eyes fixed on the cave's mouth. A rough look would spot around 1,000 heads. Bloodthirsty wolves. Zhuofan sighed, we're finished. Bloodthirsty wolves are second-level spiritual beasts, but with their numbers, they must have a third-level wolf king among them. Not even a fourth-level spiritual beast would dare to mess with them. Xie Tianyang saw the faint green eyes getting ever closer. Woe is me. Heaven must be jealous of my outstanding talent and wants to pluck me. Xuaningxiang looked worried while Zhuofan had his trademark unflappable expression. Xie Tianyang. Zhuofan said, give your sword to Ninger. Ninger. Xie Tianyang didn't understand, my star sword may be a fourth-grade spiritual weapon, but Ninger is in the qi condensation stage. It's not enough to deal with those savage beasts. He spoke of the difference in cultivation and leveled his eyes at Zhuofan. She isn't like you, fighting bone tempering and profound heaven experts while in qi condensation stage. Zhuofan smiled. Ninger won't be fighting the beasts, but escaping their encirclement. He took out a bottle from his ring but didn't have the strength to lift it. Ninger, take this energy-concealing pill. Zhuofan spoke calmly. Use it to leave all Beast Mountain range once you break the encirclement, but don't go to your clan. Leave the city. Xie Tianyang now understood Zhuofan's plan, so he too took out his star sword. Their debt to Ninger was too great, and at this point they were nothing but dead weights. Seeing their firm gazes, Xuaningxiang took the sword and ran outside. Both Xie Tianyang and Zhuofan revealed a smile, feeling a weight being lifted off their chests. This way we can repay her kindness. Even if we die, we can do it free of regrets. Xie Tianyang mumbled. Zhuofan spoke blandly, I don't care about returning favors, just felt unwilling to die like this. I just don't want this girl to keep looking after me. Humph, how cold-hearted. Xie Tianyang snapped. After that short banter, the two were at peace, waiting for the bloodthirsty wolves to devour them. But then wails came, followed by blood splattering on both of them. When they looked towards the mouth of the cave, they were shocked to see Xuaningxiang standing guard at the entrance. Some bloodthirsty wolves were circling around trying to enter but were cut down by her. With her standing guard and this being the only entrance, the wolves were kept at bay. Ninger, what are you doing? Zhuofan shouted. Xuaningxiang slashed and 3 more wolves fell. She looked back with a shy smile, see, with me standing here, they will never get in. Idiot, those are nothing but cannon fodder. The Wolf King wouldn't care if they died. He's trying to tire you out before killing you. Shuofan cursed, but his eyes were filled with worry. Xuaningxiang smiled. That Wolf King is a beast uncaring for his pack, but you are my most important friends. I won't abandon you. She killed another 2 incoming wolves. Because of the blood loss and the fatigue of carrying the 2, she felt weak and pale. She was shaking with the wind and seemed like she might collapse any second. Yet her eyes were headstrong. Xuaningxiang slashed again and again, piling wolf corpses at her feet in a pool of blood. Her brows were drenched, her breathing haggard, her arms numb, but her back remained straight against the incoming storm. Watching her frail body, Zhuofan's eyes filled with warmth. He closed his eyes, not wishing to see the end as pain laced his heart. Zhuofan! Xie Tianyang yelled, I just realized we're both damn bastards. N. Zhuofan groaned a response. Xie Tianyang looked over to Xuaningxiang braving outside and he also closed his eyes. Ah! Xuaningxiang let out a cry as a wolf bit her wrist when her strength failed her. It then pinned her to the ground. Then another wolf pounced on her other hand. She wanted to get up and keep fighting but felt too weak to move. She had surpassed the limits of her body long ago, and was now powerless to deal with 2 weak wolves. She couldn't even feel the blood flowing out from the bite wounds on her hands. Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang knew this was going to happen but kept their eyes closed. They wanted to be spared from the sight of the girl getting mauled. While 2 wolves pinned her arms, the rest were closing in as Xuaningxiang's breathing grew faint. If they could, the 2 in the cave would have covered their ears. In celebration of a successful hunt, the pack howled and the Wolf King, 3 times bigger than the rest, strutted before Xuaningxiang. Licking its fangs, the Wolf King howled and opened its maw to ravage Xuaningxiang. With her eyes blacking out, all she could see were vague shapes. Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang still had their eyes closed. Roar! Just as the Wolf King was about to bite her, a sudden roar echoed from deep within the all-beast mountain range. Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang blanked out the moment it reached them. The 1,000 bloodthirsty wolves' pack collapsed one after the other, with only the Wolf King staggering from fear. But before it could retreat, a flame swept over the wolves, not even leaving ash behind. Even the Wolf King couldn't survive and disappeared from this world. Unbelievable enough, Zhuofan's party survived unharmed, though unconscious. Zhuofan! Zhuofan vaguely heard someone calling him and opened his eyes. What is with this foggy place? Where am I? He looked around. But then it occurred to him. He was heavily wounded, so how could he move? Suddenly, 2 blue flames ignited. It fused together to reveal a burning blue-robed figure floating high above. Is your name Zhuofan? I heard the 2 kids call you as such. The figure smiled. His voice fit a sturdy middle-aged man, but it wasn't clear from his appearance. Zhuofan was suspicious. Who are you? You don't need to know. The figure replied, This is my domain and here I ask the questions. Zhuofan, why have you come to All Beast Mountain Range? The blue figure asked. Zhuofan thought for a moment. To capture a spiritual beast and make it my demonic creature. What spiritual beast? 6th level spiritual beast. Thunder Skylark. Why? Zhuofan's eyes swiveled. Why else to increase my power? Boom! A loud noise resounded and Zhuofan felt like his head was about to explode. Oh. Haha. The figure laughed. Boy, we are inside your consciousness. It's easy for me to tell when you lie. Zhuofan looked at the figure in fear. He could enter others' consciousness on his own. Such power went beyond Radiant Stage, maybe even above the mortal domain. Are you? From the sacred domain, Zhuofan gasped. He never thought that it was possible to run into a sacred domain's expert in the mortal domain. Oh. The figure was also surprised that Zhuofan knew about sacred domain and nodded. You aren't normal to know of sacred domain, to apply ancient arrays, and refine the blood infant. Zhuofan was shocked to find that all his actions were monitored. This man even knew of blood infant. Matters regarding Patriarch Blood Demon were decades old and very few people knew of them even in the sacred domain. If he hadn't stumbled upon the 9 Serenities' secret records, he would be none the wiser. But, who exactly are you? I said it before, only I asked the questions here. The figure replied coldly, "Why do you want the thunder skylark? Speak the truth." Shuafan was pensive but found no way out. "I want to go to Lightning Canyon and search for the Heavenly Emperor's remnant. For that, I need the thunder skylark to block the purple lightning." "What?" The blue figure never anticipated such an answer, but laughed in glee. "Ha ha ha, good. Great even. That is a good place. You should definitely go." The figure vanished and popped right in front of Shuafan's face. Shuafan was startled but didn't pick up any bad intentions from him. The figure then tapped Shuafan's forehead and a blue flame seeped in. Shuafan only felt gentle energy from his forehead. "Ha ha ha, boy, we are fated, so here's a gift. I hope you can help me in the future." The figure was gone but his words rang in Shuafan's ears. "You can find the thunder skylark 3,000 miles into the third area. Do your best to catch it." Chapter 68, Between Life and Death. Chapter 68, Between Life and Death. "Wait." Shuafan sat up with a start. A ray of sunshine shone through the cave's mouth and forced him to cover his eyes. To his surprise, he found that he could actually move. Although still weak, he was mostly recovered. Inspecting himself in detail, he found the blood infant laying depressed in his dantian, but its life was no longer hanging by a thread. Even its eyes were trembling, on the verge of waking up. Being shocked was an understatement. Shuafan knew the expert he met last night was someone who rose above the mortal domain, or he wouldn't have had the ability to heal his wounds overnight along with blood infants. But why did he choose me? Shuafan rubbed his forehead, recalling that the man had planted something there. But his weak self didn't allow him to see clearly what it was. He shook his head in the end. "It doesn't matter anyway, he saved me. Whatever his reasons are, I will figure them out sooner or later." With his current strength, what could he do against that man? Mocking himself, he realized that he was overthinking things sometimes. It had to do with the fact that he was in the 6th layer of chi condensation with the heart of an emperor stage expert. What a pain! So, his current objective was to boost his strength. The strong had the final say in everything. He sighed as he looked at the incoming sunshine. Despite the somber feeling exuding from the burned trees, the sun brought a ray of hope. A groan interrupted his musing and Shuafan found Xue Ningxiang's weak figure in a pool of blood. He rushed to her and fed a heart-protecting pill. A gentle yuan qi traveled within her body and Shuafan breathed easy. The girl's wounds were only skin deep. She had overused her yuan qi in her fight against the bloodthirsty wolves, and needed just a few days to recover. But the pale face of Xue Ningxiang brought another wave of worry in his heart. He then started to remove the dirt from her face. Feeling his rough hand, Xue Ningxiang cracked her eyes open and showed a sweet smile. "Brother Xue, are we dead? Rest easy, we are alive and well." "Liar, how are you able to move when you were so hurt?" Xue Ningxiang mumbled. "But at least we died together." And the girl faded into unconsciousness at the last word. Shuafan watched her peaceful expression and carried her inside the cave to lay her next to the soothing grass. It was the best item in relieving fatigue for humans. Now he was standing beside the unconscious Xie Tianyang, with a not-so-friendly face. "Yo, get up, I say." Shuafan kicked him lightly, twice for good measure, but he was still as a rock. Shuafan sneered and swung his leg way back before kicking with enough oomph on Xie Tianyang's ass. "Ah!" A wail that shook the heavens and the forest was heard. It even frightened the spiritual beasts around. "I say, what's with this ghastly yell? Trying to wake the heavens? The All-Beast mountain range doesn't lack dreadful monsters, you know." Xie Tianyang shivered as he reined in his tears. "What is this place? What did I ever do to deserve such cruelty even in death? Is kicking once cruel? You, a sword marquise abode young master, have seen nothing yet." Shuafan smiled at Xie Tianyang's shocked face. Xie Tianyang was startled seeing Shuafan. "Did you kick me? Why the hell? We clearly died together, so why can you hit me?" Shuafan grinned. "If we're dead, all of us would be equals. Too bad we are alive and kicking. And since you weren't moving." "What, we're alive?" Xie Tianyang stopped listening after that and laughed. "Haha, it's the same cave. We are alive." But then his mood soured, eyeing Shuafan up and down before yelling. Why are you able to move while I can't? You had it far worse than me and your cultivation is weaker too. Oh. Zhuofan shrugged and perked an eyebrow, exasperating the self-entitled genius disciple. Xie Tianyang's lip quivered as he wailed in frustration, freak. Not for the life of him could he comprehend how Zhuofan was jumping around after having his life hanging by a thread just 2 days ago. Even he, a bone-tempering expert, would need 2 months of recovery to be able to stand. He was vexed enough knowing that Zhuofan was stronger than him, despite their realm difference, and better skilled than him, despite their differences in background. Now though, this damn punk showed a miracle, jumping back on his feet in no time at all. How can one even bloody compare? It's like being left light years behind. Zhuofan, tell me the truth. Who the heck are you? Xie Tianyang spat. Zhuofan lost his smile and patted Xie Tianyang's shoulder. Human of course, though just slightly above average. Xie Tianyang was pissed off by Zhuofan's attitude. But his bad state didn't help him vent. And even if he could move, Zhuofan's array would just splatter him into pieces. This made bitter tears flow down his cheeks. A genius disciple's pride was crushed completely. Nonetheless, Zhuofan moving about had its upside. He could set up an array to defend them. Xie Tianyang had nothing to say to that. It brought far more advantage with Zhuofan recovered than if it was him instead. His cultivation only helped protect himself in such a place, let alone others. Spirit stones flew out of his ring and Zhuofan set up an ancient first-grade concealing array. At that moment, the cave disappeared from this place and not even a 6th-level spiritual beast would find it even if they passed through. The trio could finally heal in peace. Xuaningxiang woke up 3 days later and was wild with joy knowing that they weren't dead. Then she wondered where those wolves went and why they didn't eat the trio. Xie Tianyang was unclear about this too, but Zhuofan frowned, finding it tied to the expert he met in his consciousness. It was in this manner the trio recouped for 3 months. Zhuofan was back to full health while Xie Tianyang could now exert 70% of his power. Xuaningxiang recovered long ago and spent her time playing with the burrowing mouse. Both of them were happy seeing her smile again, thinking of her like a little sister. Xuaningxiang too started to feel more dependent on the two. Whoosh! 100 meters away from the cave, Xie Tianyang hacked a rock as he smiled towards Xuaningxiang not far away. He clearly recovered to 80%. Xuaningxiang clapped excitedly alongside the burrowing mouse. Zhuofan walked over with a smile. Nice power you have there. You should enter the 8th layer of bone tempering stage soon. Didn't you also enter the 7th layer of qi condensation after your wounds healed? Xie Tianyang clipped. Besides Zhuofan, how can your eyes be that good? To detect me breaking through before I do? Xuaningxiang waved her hand to placate them. Why are you always arguing when you meet each other? You weren't like this before. Isn't it his fault? Xie Tianyang stuck out his chest and cursed Zhuofan. After all this time, I still can't forgive this brat for using Ninger as bait. How can I not be pissed? What arguing? I'm itching to give him a beating. Pot calling the kettle black. Who was it that said to dump her and stall the 7th elder? Zhuofan countered. I never. Xie Tianyang was at a loss, but soon recovered his courage. I didn't know Ninger was so great, alright? Moreover, it's far better than being used as bait. I'm a demonic cultivator. It's normal to be more immoral than a righteous cultivator like you. Immoral? You're a bloody criminal by comparison. Oh. Seeing Zhuofan and Xie Tianyang quarreling over her, Xuaningxiang gestured for them to stop. Come on, don't argue, it's all in the past. I don't care anymore, so why are you bringing it up? No, I want to give you justice. Xie Tianyang grabbed her shoulders while glaring at the smiling Zhuofan. It's all right, we are friends who brave through life and death together. It's water under the bridge. Xuaningxiang showed a smile at the two and extended a pinky. Xie Tianyang smiled wryly and was hesitant in extending his pinky, but he did nonetheless. He was followed by an indifferent Zhuofan. The 3 pinkies touched and they started to feel warm and fuzzy inside. Finding a close friend in life was hard, but finding one to brave death alongside oneself was even harder. From now on, they would never abandon each other no matter what. Zhuofan suspected he'd be hard-pressed to find any closer friends in this life. As they took back their respective fingers, Zhuofan smiled. Now that we have recovered, we will each go our own way. Startled, the two didn't understand why he'd say this. Zhuofan shook his head. Sorry, that was my mistake. I want to leave. Xie Tianyang, I'm afraid I can't take her out of the city. Help her in my stead. Brother Zhua, where are you going? Xuaningxiang felt nervous. Zhuofan replied with a determined tone. The third area. What? Xie Tianyang and Xuaningxiang shouted. At first we wanted to avoid the seventh elder by going there. But why would you still want to go? Zhuofan's eyes flashed with guilt. To be honest, it was my objective from the start. I wanted to go together because you were useful. Bastard, you wanted more baits? Xie Tianyang cursed. Zhuofan nodded. Yes, so if you don't want to die, run along. The farther from me, the better. As he replied, Zhuofan turned to leave. Wait. Xuaningxiang pulled his hand with a shy smile. Brother Zhua, if you don't consider me as a burden, take me with you. Even if I were to become bait, it is all right as long as I can stay with you. Zhuofan was startled and his heart throbbed. Xie Tianyang advised, Hey Ninger, this guy's no good. But Xuaningxiang's gentle eyes only had Zhuofan in them, and so Xie Tianyang also reluctantly chose to put his hands together with theirs. Zhuofan raised an eyebrow. You two want to follow me? Yes. Xie Tianyang felt lifeless, but don't misunderstand. I'm not coming to help you but to make sure you don't betray Ning. Zhuofan smiled. With how smart you are, I might go and betray you both. But he didn't voice it. Meeting the two of them could be considered as his fortune. Friends in life and death were hard to find. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.